6 years ago, I made a video series about beating Fire Emblem 4, considered to be the most mount-dominant game in the franchise, with only infantry units. I thought that series was really fun, so I threw all the episodes together into one video. This is that video.
There is no meme. This is just a threat.
When you looked at the title of this video, and then decided, you know what? Yes, this is a good way to spend my time, is to watch this. I imagine there was one question going through your mind above all others, and that was, why? Why would someone do this to themselves? And quite honestly, I don't know the answer. I just looked at this and said, yeah, this seems like a good idea to do. And let me tell you, I'm going to go into great detail to explain just how wrong of a decision that was. The ground rules here are very simple. We can only use infantry units in combat. This means any unit that is not riding a mount. That means all of the Cavaliers, Forest Knights, Draco Rider, or Pegasus Knights are out of the question. However, this also means we're able to use units that would eventually get those mounts like a Zell or Lachus, as long as we don't promote them into using them. Secondly, we only can't use them in combat. We can still use Sigurd to capture points because if we couldn't, we would be fucked. Or we can use mounted units to initiate talk conversations, like Lex getting his Brave Axe. One last thing I want to mention is that I am using an SNES emulator with a speed up enabled. If I didn't, we would be here for 30 goddamn years just trying to complete the first generation. So if you ever see the entire universe move as though it was a capped Lewin wielding Forseti, that is why. And with all that out of the way, let's just get our first turn started. Our tale begins, and at the very beginning we make sure that everyone is put back into their castle, as Arden is allowed to triumphantly march onto the battlefield to start us all off. As you can see, I come up against my first enemy, attempting to navigate an options menu. I want to turn on autosave and increase the speed of the game exponentially, however it takes me 3 tries to get the goddamn options menu correct. If this is how I start this, then one only knows what greatness awaits us further down the line. Once I finally get my shit together and get this game started, I hold tab to fast forward through this boring ass plot about an early game Fire Emblem axe wielding villain wanting some poontang. And then our first battle starts. Arden and the Axeman go hand in hand, Arden's high defense and weapon triangle advantage meaning he's not really in much of any danger. The other Axemen move up, but I feel pretty good about the fact that I won't have any problems killing them. What is a problem are these bandits that are constantly burning villages down, but I've already pretty much accepted them as a foregone loss. After all, in a run like this, you can't do everything as perfectly as you could before. Now, right here, a Zell shows up alongside Lex. Now, normally, Lex is the boy that we all want to see. However, in this particular run, we're going to have to make do with a Zell. And then we get our first save in, and we have successfully completed the first turn, which is more than I thought I'd be able to accomplish. A Zell then proceeds to effortlessly take out the axe wielder trying to destroy that town, due to the fact that resistance in this game is pretty much 0 for anyone not a mage. Afterwards, Arden continues his epic clash with the very first axeman that we find, going in for another attack as quickly as our brave young man often does. This time he gets hit by both, which is not very good, but I still don't feel that's much of a problem. And then I end the turn, the enemy phase begins, and the other axemen start to move up. I say as that is clearly a bowman. The other axeman attacks Arden, and I really hope that he finally dodges one of these hits. And he doesn't. It is now I'm starting to get a little worried, but I still feel like I'll be fine. And then the other axeman runs right past me and sees his Jungbi, instantly ending the run right there. Yeah, I kind of forgot that that was something that could happen, since almost at no point in the game are your castles ever actually in danger. This now presents us with a problem. Arden can't leave the castle, otherwise the Axeman will just run right past him and instantly end the run. We also can't use Sigurd, Alec, or Noish to defend the castle, because then a cavalry unit would be fighting. So this means that Arden's grand epic quest to finally break free of the shackles of castle duty begins with him on castle duty. It's not all bad, though. Arden's good enough at castle duty for us to live long enough to see Quan, Finn, and Ethelyn show up. However, we can't actually put them into the cage town because there's a guy right there blocking the door. So we just put them in this little corner right here and ask them to wait patiently as Arden takes care of business. And take care of things he does, as Arden's superb job at defending the castle means that Azel has plenty of time to make sure that not every single village in the prologue is a smoldering pile of rubble. Because of this, some money can still be gained from those villages and Arden can acquire it. Because the game is kind of a douche to us. See, it would have been really easy if we could have just sold Noish's steel sword that's in his inventory and had Arden purchase it to give him some more firepower right out the gate. Unfortunately, when you sell the steel sword, you buy it back for 3,000 gold. Arden's starting inventory is 2,000 gold, and his iron sword sells for only 500, meaning that we're kinda shit out of luck even if we tried it at the very beginning, so we needed some of those villages to stick around. Once Azel and Arden have wreaked enough havoc to the west that they start coming back south to take the castle, I decide that Sigurd has had enough time to think about his actions and free him from his prison and send him towards the castle as well. I move Quan and Ethelyn to talk to him because I don't remember if that actually matters, and I'm going to give you a spoiler, it doesn't, and it looks like everything is completely fine. But there's one teeny tiny thing I forgot about until right now. See, as I mentioned earlier, I want Arden to equip the steel sword for Noish's inventory before beginning the next phase of the chapter, because that'll really help his damage output, and the increase in weight doesn't matter when nothing has pursuit right now. However, I also want Arden to be exactly where the bridge forms to the west once the second part of the chapter starts, which means I have to trudge Arden all the way back to the base castle, go in there, repair his sword, buy the steel sword, and then trudge him all the way back, make sure he takes a quick visit to go to church and heal, and then be ready for when the second wave starts. All when everything else is dead and I just have nothing else to do. This is both due to my poor planning and the fact that there was really no way around this, so we might as well just deal with it. And with that out of the way, it is time to begin the battle on the big bridge. After Jungby is seized, the other goon with an axe that wants to fuck women decides to spawn a bunch of reinforcements and reopen the bridge that he destroyed. Somehow. And this leads to a big battle, which Arden is going to confidently tank. Except there's one problem. See, while Arden is definitely beefy, that is a lot of goons, and Arden doesn't have the defenses to quite entirely stall it. However, we do have one savior, Arvis, and we're going to use him to cheese things in a very effective and also kind of very, very cheap strategy. See, what Arvis wants to do is make a beeline for Sigurd and give him the silver sword, which normally is the thing that makes Sigurd even more broken than he already is, but in this case we're going to be giving that to someone else. Now, this AI can be abused, whereas if Arvis walks in front of anyone that's in his way to Sigurd, he will burn them, and he will burn them bad. So, if we just so happen to put all of these little reinforcements in his way, well, what happens next we can hardly be accountable for, right? And, thanks to an irony that is not lost on me and shouldn't be lost on you, we are able to make it through the prologue using only infantry thanks to some help from good old pal Arvis. Now the boss goes down very easily, and with that, Sigurd can just walk up and we can seize the second castle, completely finishing this chapter for good. And it only took us, oh Jesus Christ, 79 turns. Oh boy, this is going to be a long one. But, as it were, our boys aren't looking too bad at all. Arden has leveled strength better than defense, but 16 strength going into chapter 1 is really good, and the 14 defense isn't too shabby either. And those 2 little sprinkles of speed he got are also very much appreciated, and he'll really use them once he gets the pursuit ring. As for Azel, he leveled up strength, which is useless but hype as hell, and he got good magic and speed, which is honestly all he needs. I don't know how capable he is in combat without his promotion gains. I kinda just remember he gets hoarse and then my brain goes blank after that, so hopefully he'll still be able to keep up once we start getting later into the first generation. I hope you all enjoyed coming to see how well we could manage the prologue, and I hope you guys continue to come around to see how well we can manage chapter 1. I don't really know how well this is going to go in the long run. I haven't practiced this, I've never done this before, so for all I know we could hit a huge roadblock and everything fucking collapses. Who knows? I don't, and you don't either, hopefully. I don't hope anyone's done this to themselves. Next chapter, we're going to get a lot more infantry, so that should really help us out in the grand scheme of things. And if you like this video, please leave a like and comment. I need to know how this is. This is a bit different than my other Let's Plays, as this commentary is with no script after I've already recorded the gameplay. So I'm kind of trying like a hybrid between live action comedy and just my regularly well-rehearsed comedy that I've done from my other character analyses. Analysi? Yeah, sure. So if you like this style, please let me know. If you'd rather I make this into a more detailed video, please understand I'd have to take longer to make them, but I could totally come at this with a script if need be. Otherwise, expect these every once in a while, like 2 a week, 3 a week is what I'm hoping for. Otherwise, you've got Vestaria for your day-to-day fix. I'll see you all in the next one, and I hope you all had a wonderful time. Real quick before we get started, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who watched and liked the first episode. As of the time of me recording this, it's got nearly 160 views and 37 likes. That's amazing. And for everyone that offered me their prayers for my journey ahead, God can't see where we're going. Now, Chapter 1 is going to be a very important chapter for us, as our army is going to be able to triple in size. We're going to go just from Arden and Azel to getting Ideen, Du, Ira, and Prince Jam. Now, the main problem with this chapter is the fact that it begins with the exact same problem as before. A bunch of axe goons are immediately coming to our castle. Normally, we would just have Arden defended just like we did before, but there's another problem. Our pretty blonde squad is being pursued by even more axe goons, and we gotta figure out how the hell to get them out of there. Thankfully, this is a lot easier than one would expect. See, our little guy Du here is very, very fast. It's kind of like the only stat of his that's particularly noteworthy. All of these people chasing him are axe goons, so he has the weapon triangle advantage, and he is surrounded by forests. So you just move Du on over to those little forests and just put him there. The enemies literally have a 0% chance to hit him, so they kind of just all huddle around him and just think to themselves, well, eventually he's going to have to move, and Ideen is free to just keep moving, and none of them will think to go after her. They're just going to huddle around Du like he's some hot commodity. While Du is fighting off a horde of axe goons to the south, Arden and Azel need to prepare to fend off against a horde of axe goons to the north. I send Arden into the arena a bit before I remember to check the armory. It updates every chapter, and wouldn't you know, it has a slim sword here. Now, my main problem is I always forget the slim sword's actually better than the iron and steel swords in this game, because I'm so used to the GVA games where it's kind of completely pointless. Arden is able to take it a decent way through the arena until he comes up against a brick wall in the form of a wind magic user, which he cannot defeat right now without serious luck that I don't have the luxury of just RNG spamming right now, because I'm lazy and I don't feel like doing it until later in the chapter. So Arden's arena run ends there, for now. Azel's run through the arena isn't nearly as fortunate as Arden's though. He doesn't have any new weapons in the armory to pick up, and he can't get as far due to the Myrmidon that serves as a wall for him. I already know ahead of time that it's going to kill him because I tried before and he died to it, and I don't want to leave him at 1 HP, so I just let him go without even trying to fight him. After all, it'll be Arden's time to shine soon anyway, so Azel doesn't really need to be that much more ahead for right now. And finally, after 2.5 minutes of exposition, we can finally get started with the goddamn chapter. I decide to put Azel to guard the initial wave of axemen because I think to myself, he couldn't really finish the arena, so maybe he can try to pick up XP there. And it starts working just fine, but unfortunately, Azel can't dodge that many 34% without getting unlucky, and he gets hit by all of them and proceeds to die. That goes to show why I should never try to send a mage to do a knight's job. So instead I put Arden there just like the prologue, and everything starts to work out just fine. Now's as good a time as any to mention what the hell Du is doing down there. See, there actually is one enemy that will attack Du, the commander enemy, who has a whopping like 4% chance to hit Du, so he thinks, ooh, I'm gonna hit him. So Du can keep attacking this enemy over and over again and get about 10 XP per hit. And considering how much we're turtling here, that's gonna really add up in the long run. I shit you not, by the time Du is done in those goddamn trees, he is going to get 7 level ups alone just by smacking that one bitch. It is quite remarkable, and also really stupid, which is kind of the theme of this run now that I think about it. This swordsman bitch smacking between Arden and Du goes on for quite some time, and it's at this time I can mention something that I thought was pretty interesting. See, the AI is well aware that they're not going to hit Do with a 0% chance, so they just don't even attack him. So I was wondering something. See, the first mini-boss of this chapter is going to die to a single hit from Arden. However, normally he would be able to kill Arden with his own attack before that happens. But Arden has Vantage, which means when he's below half health, he will always attack first, regardless of who initiates the attack. I was wondering if maybe the AI was smart enough and Kinbath wouldn't attack Arden. Spoiler alert, the AI is not smart enough and Kinbath engages in an attack that is just having a 100% chance of killing him and he gets nothing from it. So, I guess we learned something today. While all of this is going on, a bandit finishes burning the town in between the two castles down to the ground, and then he just stands there, silently, contemplating the weight of the loss and the death and destruction he imposed upon this innocent town. Perhaps he is starting to realize just what a true monster he is, and perhaps if he can change it— nah, I'm just kidding. It turns out he has a telepathic link with his other bandit buddy down south, and he won't start moving until that village is destroyed too. And as soon as it is destroyed, he starts moving towards Ideen. Thankfully, this is around where Arden's wrapping things up, so he can start moving south to go save her. Getting Ideen back, along with the Arden and Azel, is really good for us, because Ideen finally gives us the power to heal our goddamn army. Now, we don't have to sit on the fortress or go to church anymore. We are now officially an atheist army. But that still means poor Do down there needs us to go save him. He can only keep fighting the commander for so long. Not because he's going to die or anything, but because his iron sword is literally going to break if we don't get him out of there soon. Arden moves south and basically wipes out the entire band of fighters on his own. Do's doing damage, stealing gold, but he just doesn't have the raw strength to put a dent in any of them. But that's not a problem, because Arden can put a dent. A lot of dents, in fact. So now that I have everyone grouped together, it's time to take the castle to the east. Problem is Ira standing right there. Now, in all my times playing FE4, I've never quite figured out the ideal way to do this, but the way we're going to do this is we're going to stick Do in a bush and have Ira go over and attack him. Because Do's speed is so high and he got so many level ups from just attacking the same dude over and over, he's going to effortlessly dodge Ira's strikes. In fact, Astra even gets procced on him and he lives, just by sheer evasion alone. So, while actual tanks like Arden tend to be more useful and more consistent, there's something to be said about a good dodge tank. Thanks, Do. This is the most combat you'll have for quite some time. And thanks to our moneymaker Do, we were able to keep Ira away from the castle enough for Azel to kill the boss and for Sigurd to seize. After that, it's just a matter of getting Sigurd over to talk to Ira, and we have her on our team. Now, Ira's role in this is actually more pronounced than in a regular game. Ira's whole balance was that she was an incredibly powerful combat unit, but she didn't have a horse. Well, now since no one has a horse, Ira's role is even bigger than it ever was before, being able to put out consistent damage and consistent kills. And to even further emphasize that, since Sigurd's certainly not using that silver sword anymore and Arden literally can't wield it until promotion, Ira nabs that sucker up immediately, giving her much higher damage output right out of the gate. Which is what I would say if I didn't forget the fact that Do kinda stole all of Ira's gold when they were fighting. Yeah, Do landed a hit on her and took her 3,000 gold, so she can't afford anything. Thankfully, Do can just give her all that gold right back. Which in turn is also a mistake, because remember what I said about Do needing to repair his iron sword because he's been smacking the same goon for so long? Yeah, I forgot to do that before I gave her all of Do's gold. And since it can't choose how much gold Do gives, it's either all or nothing, Do kinda doesn't have any ability to repair his sword. So that was a fuck up on my part. Completely. But, hey. Ira now has over 30,000 gold. Not like she couldn't just keep going through the arena and she naturally just gets that much gold anyway, but, look, man, I'm trying to find the positives here. Don't make fun of me. Seizing the first castle causes Eldigan's scene with the Cross Knights going to stop Elliot. And one might make the observation, dude, those are horses and they're fighting. And the funny thing about that is they're green units and I don't count them as people. So we're just going to ignore them and pretend like they don't exist. And in reality, we can't really stop this from happening. but since it isn't a player-controlled horseman, I'm going to say that this doesn't count against our rules. So go on, Eldigan and your knights. Kill Elliot. Except you don't. You gotta leave that for me next chapter. And with one out of the 3 castles in this chapter captured, I think it's a fair time to end it right now. Next episode, we have to deal with Jomke's Forest of Fuck and Deidre, or Deirdre, or whatever the hell this patch calls her, I don't actually know. And I feel like there's enough there to warrant its own chapter. Now, thank you all so much for watching me suffer through this. I've decided to try to cut every chapter into 2 episodes past the prologue, because they're going to start getting very, very long. Like, really long. Like, how the fuck am I going to manage chapter 2 with only infantry? I'm not too sure how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to try my damnedest. So thank you guys so much. Leave a like, let me know what you want me to do with this. If you'd rather it be more professional, less professional, please let me know. I still am kind of trying to figure out how to do the whole Let's Play thing. But if there's anything I've gotten right so far, it's that making my suffering for others' entertainment is the way to go. Welcome back everyone to another exciting episode of Turtling the series. Last time we were able to conquer 1 castle. This time we're going to conquer 2 castles. Now to start us off, we're all going to move towards the center castle and just collapse upon the axemen that are waiting for us there. This part isn't really all that interesting. The only noteworthy thing is I finally remembered Lex back there, and this is the chapter where he can get his brave axe. He doesn't really want it because, you know, he's on a horse, but Arden can really use that. So I have Lex sell his axes and get ready to go there to go get the axe. Now, some of you might have already realized my terrible mistake, but we're not going to talk about that. And speaking of mistakes, now might be a good time to go over the other big fuck-up I had. See, I did remember to have Du and Ideen talk to each other, which nets Ideen the warp staff, allowing her to transport any ally unit to any captured castle. Really good staff, also very abusable for a free 60 XP, it's how you get Ideen promoted in no time. What I didn't do was have her talk to Ethelyn, which is how she gets the return staff. Thankfully, while this is a fuck-up, it's not that big of a fuck-up. See, the return staff just sends a unit back to the home castle, which the warp staff can already do. I mean, it would have been nice to have it, but it's definitely not something I'm too depressed about missing out on. Anyways, after we take care of all the goons in front of Gandalf over here, it's time to actually kill him. Now, while it is true Ira or Du could really use some more XP, I decided to start fighting him with Arden instead. See, Arden is really on the cusp end of promotion, and it'd be really great to get that at the start of Chapter 2, because if I don't, I'm going to have to trudge around an unpromoted Arden. He's going to hit level 20 in like 30 seconds of Chapter 2, and then I'll have to trudge him all the way back to the home castle to promote him. So I'm going to try to baby him up a little bit to see if we can't break that threshold anyway, and not worry about all that shit. Eventually, Gandalf goes down, and it's time for one of the most tragic scenes in hindsight in all of Fire Emblem history. See, Sigurd meets Deidre for the first time, and an elder tells him, "Dude, don't be horny, or else the entire fucking world is going to be destroyed." And Sigurd is just like, my penis knows no limits, and gets horny and ends up causing the near destruction of the entire world. I feel really bad for this elder, and I like to imagine as the entire events of Gen 2 are happening, he's sitting at home thinking to himself, I really should have fucking stopped that guy from being horny. But alas and alack, here we are, and here's the state of the game. And at that, the siege for the final castle has begun. Jomke and all of his bowmen start to move south towards our position and get ready to buttfuck us with arrows. Now, you could try to meet Jomke directly in his forest of fuck, but it's a lot easier to just kinda wait there and let them come to you. We're doing infantry only, we're not here for speed and efficiency. And while we're waiting for Jomke to get there, we can take care of Du and Iris arena runs and try to see if Azel and Arden can't finish the arena off while we wait for Jomke to patiently stroll through the Forbidden Forest. Actually, while we're doing all of this arena bullshit, it's time to bring up something that's going to be really important. Who do we pair off our women with? We have 2 of them so far already, Ideen and Ira, and both of them have children that'll play a key role in the second generation. Let's start with Ideen, since we technically got her first. Ideen has 2 kids, Lester and Rana, and you normally just have to choose between one or the other. You either pair Ideen off with someone magical, so Rana's good, or you pair her off with Jomke or Medale, so that Lester's good. However, Lester is a horse rider, which means we don't care about him. So he's going to be the abandoned stepchild, and all we have to worry about is pairing off Ideen with someone magical. And Azel will do a very good job for that. But abandoning Lester in a dumpster does give us one problem. Jomke will not be able to get the Brave Bow. Ideen only gives it to him if he's her husband, so if we pair her off with Azel, he's not going to be able to get it. Now this sounds like a problem, but in the grand scheme of things it's not. See, Jomke doesn't really fucking need that bow. He is a perfectly powerful combat unit without ever needing to touch it. So, much like the return staff, it's a sad loss, but I'm not really too hard-pressed about it. That bow is really just to help Medale more than our Chad, Jomke. So that covers Ideen, but what about Ira? Latchkey and Ulster are going to be absolutely vital because they come in at the first chapter of the second generation, are infantry for the entire thing, and are going to be some of our most consistent combat units. Now, her ideal pairing is normally Lex, but it's going to be a little awkward to have him trudge around next to her and start sapping off for some love points, so we're not going to do that. That leaves us with our other capable candidates, Dew, Arden, and next chapter, Holm. Now, all 3 of them offer something good for her, but this run through, I think I'm going to do something I've never done before and try to hook her up with Dew. See, the first thing is that Latchkey doesn't really need anything from her father. Ira basically makes that child on her own, and the father just helps pump it up. But Ulster's gonna need a little bit of help, since he can't inherit swords from Ira, so Dew, being a sword fighter, is gonna be able to pass down some nice swords. And he also has the soul skill, and considering Ulster's a little bulkier than his sister, that's gonna be really helpful for him to be able to proc and help his survivability. Now, it's not the ideal pairing, again, that would be Lex, but Dew's growths are very well balanced. He's capable of giving good stats to both children. Granted, he's not going to give them the best stats, because Dew doesn't really have the best stats outside of speed and luck, but he's definitely going to give them balanced stats, which is never a bad thing. But the one thing I need to be careful of is to not put Dew and Ira too close to each other at the start. You see, Ira needs to be single at the start of Chapter 3 because Holm and Lex will try to hit on her by buying her a really cool sword, that being the Brave Sword, which is a really fucking good sword for someone like Ira and eventually Latchkey. So we just need to make sure that she and Dew pair off sometime after the start of Chapter 3, which is just fine in my book, because there's not really any benefit to pairing someone with Dew early. He can already give them gold, like what? And at long last, it's time to meet Jomke and his Legion of Axemen, which I mistakenly called Bowmen early in the video and am too lazy to go change. Now, this is actually a very easy confrontation, as all 3 of my fighters are sword fighters and all of them are axes. They have like a negative chance to hit everyone, so it's very easy to bait out Jomke and then have Ideen go talk to him and get him onto our team. And now, as I've mentioned before, Jomke is a very competent combat unit, and he can right away get to slaughtering his own men, which is really weird. You would think he would tell them to stop fighting him, but whatever, Fire Emblem recruitment is weird sometimes. So, after that riveting battle in the forest, it's time to get back to Sigurd being unnecessarily horny for a woman he just met. Which, hey, I can relate, but that's neither here nor there. See, normally this is where you use Diodora to silence the boss and then never touch her again, but we're going to try to use her a little bit here. See, characters in Generation 2, at least the child units, have their base stats affected by whatever the end stats for their parents were at the end of Gen 1. So, while normally Sigurd would just be so powerful that Seliph doesn't really need Diodora stats, we can't use Sigurd at all, so he's going to be struggling in the stat department. So, while it's not going to help out much, in fact it's probably only going to help out his base resistance, we really want to use Diodora a little bit to help give Seliph stats a little boost. It's not much more than nothing, but Diodora gives something, which is better than nothing, because nothing is nothing. Get what I'm saying? This next fight goes very simply. The bowman and 2 axemen come up to attack, and I basically kill them all with Arden and Jomke. Now, Arden really isn't obtaining that much experience for each fight, but every little bit helps, because again, I really want him promoted by the start of Chapter 2, but any and all experience for Jomke is very appreciated. I keep them on the outside of the boss's range, so I don't need to silence him just yet. I want to actually boss abuse a bit with Arden here, so I want to save as many silences as possible. And wouldn't you know it, it turns out that was a very smart decision. See, the amount of damage Arden does to the boss versus how much health the boss heals from standing in a castle is not that much of a difference. Combine the fact that Arden isn't the most accurate and is struggling to hit him, means that the boss almost burns through all 3 uses of Deodra's silence and then is able to kill Arden. Thankfully, I have a secret weapon up my sleeve, switching to the less accurate weapon. Yeah, through some fucking miracle of God, the slim sword was missing, but the steel sword actually hit him despite having a lower hit rate. I don't understand Fire Emblem RNG, I just live with it. And now, after all of that, we can finally get Lex his Brave Axe. Haha, funny joke. I really fucked up on this one. For those who don't know, Lex getting his Brave Axe is a reference to the Aesop fable, The Woodcutter's Axe. Long story short, a woodcutter drops his axe in the lake, lady comes up and says, "Did you drop this gold axe?" And the humble woodcutter says, "No, I didn't." So the lady gives him the gold axe and his regular axe back. And Lex is the same thing, but with a Brave Axe. I sold his axe. He doesn't have an axe to drop in the river. Or I guess this is the ocean. So, once I realized how badly I fucked up there, I just said, fuck it, I'm just gonna get the Brave Lance and give that to Arden instead, and just warped Lex home for some XP for Aiden. Not my best moment. And after I've realized that mistake, it's just a quick wrap up for the rest of the chapter. I send Deodra through what she can do in the arena, which is like 2 fights. I have Aideen heal and warp everyone she can to help give her some XP, because warp gives a sweet sexy 60 XP. And then it's just a matter of having Sigurd walk up and seize the chapter. Arden is level 18, and hopefully all of that work will be enough to promote him come the start of the next chapter. And so, Chapter 1 is complete, after a whopping 115 turns. Oh god, we're gonna break 1,000 before the end of Generation 1. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. I realize I don't say that enough, and I probably should say it more. And if you have any suggestions, advice to help me with my suffering, please let me know. I'm not entirely sure how I want to handle Chapter 2. I think these shorter episodes work better, but some people prefer longer ones. Let me know what you think about that. And I'll see y'all next time, where we can get Hone, Latchis, though we can't promote her, and Lewin and Sylvia. So that'll be a big ol' pump up to our army. I'll see y'all then, and have a wonderful day. Hey y'all, Scott here. No, I've just been binge watching a lot of Scott the Woz. Anyways, we're back again for another exciting adventure into Infantry only on Fire Emblem 4. Now, for some reason, a lot of you thought Chapter 2 was going to be really rough for me. It's not. Chapter 4 is currently the chapter that is giving me a lot of nightmares and making me very terrified when I go to sleep at night. But this chapter really isn't all that bad. Don't get me wrong, it's not ideal, but this entire run isn't ideal. What the hell do you want from me? And that also brings me to a real quick point. Thank you all so much for all the views and likes on Episode 3. It's actually gotten more views and likes than Episode 2, which... how the hell does that work? But still, nevertheless, thank you all so much for giving this series attention, and I hope I can continue to be entertaining to you long into the episode. Well, that's enough padding out time. Let's just get right back into it. Now, this chapter begins with a very long period spent purely in the arena. This is going to happen in like every single Fire Emblem 4 chapter from here on out. The arena gets a lot more time consuming when you have a lot more than just Arden and Zell to go through it with. So there's going to be like 20 minutes at the start of every chapter just going through the arena. But this arena is actually a bit more noteworthy, because it's where we're going to get our next unit, Hone. And all you have to do is clear out the arena with anyone other than Jomke. Or Medale, but how the fuck are you clearing the arena with Medale? So that should be easy enough with our big chunky boy Arden. And you'll remember that last time we fed him a lot of XP in hopes that he'd be able to promote at the very start. and I am pleased to say that, through an incredibly long, grueling process, he managed to get to level 20 with 3 XP to spare. God bless you, Arden, you beautiful bastard.
It's time for the moment you've been waiting for.
And with his incredible promotion, Arden gains a lot of power and defense here. He is one chunky boy, and he is not going to take much damage, and he's going to deal a good amount of damage. His promotion also gives him access to an A rank in lances and a B rank in axes and bows, which would let him use the Brave Axe if I wasn't fucking stupid, but it does let him use the Brave Lance once we're able to get that, and the Silver Lance if there's ever a reason I would use that over the Brave Lance, I'm not entirely sure. And also we can't forget the absolutely fucking busted Pavice skill. In Genealogy of the Holy War, Pavice just says no you to a random enemy attack with a percentage equal to your level. So 20% of all attacks that come Arden's way, he's just going to look at and go, "It's cute to me that you think that's going to do anything." And when that happens, I'm going to laugh. And when enemy generals do it, I want to kill myself, so, you know, in give and take. And would you look at that, we are 3.5 minutes into the episode and we haven't actually started the goddamn chapter. I am super good at this. But hold on to your seats, because there's more things we need to talk about before actually talking about anything. And that is Holm. He's the new recruit for this chapter, and he is a base Myrmidon, just like Ira. Now, he's not as fondly remembered as Ira, despite being just as good, if not better than her in some ways. Because, well, if I had to assume, it's probably because she is Sexy Sword Lady and he is Sexy Sword Man, and we do not give those Sexy Sword Men enough credit. I'm looking at you, Samson. So, what Holm's main thing is instead of Astra, he has Luna. Rather than getting 5 free strikes, he instead can ignore enemy defense, which actually is better in some places. Don't get me wrong, Astra is 100% a better skill in, like, most fights, but Ira can swing her sword 5 times. It's not going to help her defeat generals at all. Holm actually can. It doesn't come in handy most of the time, but in terms of boss slaying, Holm is very effective. And actually someone I think is a little underrated. I really like Holm, and I'm glad we'll be able to give him some time in the sun. And after all of that, we can finally begin the chapter, and immediately everything is going wrong. See, the whole thing about this chapter is Latches and her 3 knights need your help, and you're supposed to bum rush to them as quickly as possible to save them from dying to the incoming barrage from Elliot. Yeah, problem with that, one of them dies literally before I have anything I can do about it. This actually can also happen even if I could use Quan and Sigurd. Like, this is a bit of a bullshit start, I'm not gonna lie. But rather than reset for it, I decide, fuck it. Like, they normally die anyway, and while the Night Ring is nice, it's not something I'm gonna be too hard-pressed to have. Like, a lot of people go through this game without it just because these dumbasses get killed anyway, so it's not that big of a loss on my nose. Despite the casualty, truth be told, Latches' knights clean up a lot of the knights from Elliot. The only real noteworthy thing is what happens to Elliot himself, as Jomke engages him and crits him, followed by continue proccing and hitting him again. As I mentioned when we got him, Prince Jam shoots at anything he shoots at until it dies. No exceptions. And so, we rescue Latches, get her on our team, and I'm not gonna lie to you, despite this being an infantry-only run, we're not really gonna be using this particular infantry very much. Latches' main claim to fame is an incredible power boost once she promotes, but she can't promote because Master Knight is on a horse, so we're stuck with Princess Latches, who is not very good. She has a sword, but she can't really do anything with it. Her combat isn't very good. She has a staff, which is nice, but we already have Ideen and Deidre, who are much better healers, and once Deidre leaves us next chapter, Claude comes in that very same time. So, really, there's not much of anything Latches can do for us, other than save our asses next chapter, but that's next chapter, not this chapter, so Latches won't be seeing much screen time here. Now is a good time to bring up the villages in the center of this chapter. They're fucked! Yeah, okay, a bit more in-depth explanation. Lewin and Sylvia come out to save those villagers after you conquer the first castle. Problem, at the speed we're going, we literally cannot conquer that first castle before they wreak a lot of havoc. So I have to say goodbye to the bargain ring. There's no way in hell I'm going to be able to save that in time. Granted, I do get the Armor Slayer in time, but between the two, that's not as desirable. But alas and alack, we've kind of already accepted that a lot of innocent villagers are going to have to die for memes. So, I guess just press F for 'em in the chat and we'll move on with our lives. The trek to conquering the first castle isn't too noteworthy. We kind of just move up, kill the people, and keep going. The noteworthy thing that happens is Jomke shoots the boss Philip and continue procs like 5 times, killing the boss even through his own activation of Pavice. And I'm gonna say it again, Jam shoots until the thing dies. There are 0 exceptions. I fucking love Jomke. After conquering the first castle, Lewin and Sylvia spawn in, Arden starts making his trek towards the pursuit ring, and I decide to start greeting the forces to the north with an incredibly well thought out and strategic front line of an archer, a mage, and a thief. Yeah, needless to say, I'm immediately punished for this, and Jomke dies, forcing me to make a front line for this bit that isn't completely stupid. Using Du as a dodge tank and Holn as an actual tank, I start to brace myself for the absolute metric fuck ton of horsemen that spawn in at the start of conquering the castle. And before we go to combat that entire fuck of horse, let's talk about Sylvia and Lewin. Both are, as you can tell, infantry, and both are going to be very helpful to us. However, they begin a little too close to my liking. I don't want them to pair up romantically, so I take extra care to not end them anywhere near each other. I know you only need to be 1 space away and not touching, but, you know, we gotta take precautions here. Sylvia's children are lean and corporal, and it depends on the translation patch. They're both good, but their stats really don't matter all that much. At least Lean's don't. She's a dancer. She's gonna dance. What do stats matter? As for Corpory, the general best father for him, in my opinion, is Claude. So we're gonna wait a bit to pair off Sylvia, and Lewin, I also want to be a dad. Just not to anyone I have in my army right now. Now back to the matter at hand. Despite how many horsemen there are, it's not nearly as insurmountable a task as it looks. The horsemen stats, sans the boss, really aren't that high, so Holn and all of our other goons can very easily deal with them. The only frustrating part is the boss himself. He has the highly coveted Paragon Band, which doubles the experience of whoever wields it. That's really, really good, and I want to give it to Du, because Du can actually hold his own once he promotes, but have a hard fucking time getting there, so I want the Paragon thing to expedite things. I managed to get the boss down to 3 health, and Du only does 1 damage. I think to myself, if I can try to maybe just have him attack Du, have Du attack him, but in the end I decide, fuck it, just kill him with Ira, not like she can't use it, and we'll just sell it to Du later. Trust me, if there's anyone in this army who is not in want of money, it's Du. Once Waltz goes down, the rest of the horsemen follow suit. Don't get me wrong, we do have to reset a few times. It's not like we get perfect RNG the first time, but most of it goes down pretty simply. Sadly though, we do axe off Beowulf. There isn't really any reason to keep him around, because he doesn't make a particularly good father for anyone we're trying to use, and he's a horseman, and his starting weapon is just a steel sword. It's not even anything worth grabbing for that. So, goodbye, Beowulf. I like you, but this isn't the first time you've been snubbed in a piece of Fire Emblem media. I fucking didn't even include you at all in the FE4 manga. That is just sad, dude. Once the horsemen are dealt with, there's a big group of armor knights that stand as the last barrier between us and killing the boss and ending this section of the chapter. Now, while these armor units are noticeably stronger than the horsemen prior, they still aren't too difficult to take down. By this time, I've even managed to get Lewin back in touch with the main group, and we just blaze through them pretty easily, securing some nice level ups in the process. Now, while we're about to fight the boss, there are a few other things I need to take care of before seizing that castle. And that's a good thing, because it's going to take a while, because I'm about to finally commit the sin of true boss abuse. It's not that complicated. I gave Ira the Paragon ring, so I'm like, fuck it, might as well just get her to level 20, and that's exactly what I do. I have her go one-on-one with the boss, abusing the Paragon ring until she hits level 20, and then I yeet that bitch back to the home capsule with Ideen, and then I have everyone else pretty much just get warped out of there. I have Lewin stick around to actually kill the boss when the time comes, and I just brace myself to prepare to take the last 2 castles. And that is actually where we will end things for today. Now, there's still a bit more I did before actually completing this castle, but I'm going to save that for next episode, as what I'm doing with Sigurd has a lot more relevance over there. I want to thank you all so much for watching. The response to this series has been very good, and it's been very fun to play. I hope you guys continue to support the channel. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to remember to start doing that more. I'm really bad with that. So I really hope you guys just enjoyed my suffering. Now, the rest of this chapter, I'm going to leave a spoiler for next episode, isn't too bad, but I shit you not, I really am terrified about what the hell episode 4 is going to do to us. I mean, chapter 4, not episode 4. Fuck. Fuck it, I've already this far into recording this, I'm not going to start over. So, with that final fuck up, have a wonderful day, and I will see you all when we kill Jagal. For the first time out of twice. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Infantry Only Fire Emblem 4, the only Fire Emblem Let's Play on YouTube that makes you ask the question, why? Dear God, why would you do this? Last time we did the first half of Chapter 2, and this time we're going to do the second half of Chapter 2. Brilliant, I know. But before we get into all of that, let me just take another quick moment to say thank you all so much for all the likes and views on the last video. I'm going to be a mushy sap every time, so just get used to me thanking you all for your love and support throughout the series. And the second thing I want to talk about this time is more so just go over some of the things I glossed over last time. Namely, some pairings and Arden getting his legendary coveted Pursuit Ring. As most of you know, during Chapter 2, Arden gets his coveted Pursuit Ring, which grants him the ability to double. Now you might look at his speed and just go, well, why the fuck does he have that? He can't use it. And that's where you're wrong. See, Fire Emblem 4 is a little different from other Fire Emblem games. In other Fire Emblem games, you need like 4 speed, roughly, more than your opponent to double. In Fire Emblem 4, if you have Pursuit, you just need to be faster. It doesn't matter if it's by 1 point or by 20. The second thing is how weapon weight is done, is you take your speed, and you subtract the weapon's rate from it, and that's it. No con, and none of that bullshit. It's very simple and clear cut. So that means Arden actually can double a lot of enemies, because weapon weight allows you to go negative. Yup, enemies in this game have negative attack speed if their weapon weighs them down a lot. And here's a spoiler for you, pretty much every enemy in the game using a lance or an axe has negative attack speed. That's just how it goes. Lances and axes weigh a fuck ton, and Arden uses primarily swords, so he manages to get by just fine. So yeah, that goes to show you that you can have no speed, but as long as the game is built around that not fucking mattering, you're A-okay. Well, now that we've gotten 2 minutes of exposition out of the way, let's actually continue playing the chapter that we've started. Now there are 3 things left to do in this chapter. Seize the first castle right there, seize the next castle, and stop Fury from seizing our own castle. Chapter 2 is one of the few times where your home castle is actually under threat. Thankfully, we've had Ideen pre-warp everyone, and Fury doesn't actually start moving south until Sigurd seizes that top castle. So, since we don't give a shit about turn count, we wasted as much time and got everyone in position and ready to go. Lewin is going to be there at the south ready for her, and I put Latches guarding the castle in defense just in case. If you have Lewin guard the castle, you might get really unlucky with how the Pegasus Knights attack him, and then they might bar you from being able to walk next to Fury, and it's easier if Lewin's just outside of the castle. And immediately this ends up being a funny problem. Yeah, as you might remember, Latches is accompanied by 3, or at this point 2, suicidal knights, and they charge Fury's men, and kill them all, except Fury herself, leading to an awkward conversation with Lewin, which she doesn't seem to mind the death all that much. Huh, thought that would make her a little more shaken up. Now that we've recruited all of the ladies for this chapter, let's go over their children and how I want to promote with them. Both of Latches' children are on a horse, so she doesn't fucking matter. Next question. Briefly mentioned Sylvia earlier, but I'm just going to reiterate, I do want to pair her off with Claude so that she can get her son a very good staff and stats. Lean's a dancer, her stats don't matter, so fuck her. Fury is where things actually get complicated. See, her daughter, Fee, is on a Pegasus, so she doesn't fucking matter. But Ced, on the other hand, does. He's a sage, which is not on a horse and fair game, and is often considered one of the most powerful units in the entire game. This is normally because, due to plot reasons, people hook up Lewin and Fury, so Ced gets Forseti and just wins. However, Ced has a little secret that not many players know. It's not Forseti that makes him strong, Ced's just fucking strong. His base stats are good, his just all around good. Forseti just makes him broken. So it actually doesn't matter who Fury's husband is. Ced's gonna turn out pretty alright no matter what. And so, because of this, we're gonna hook her up with Lex. Now, normally a physical father wouldn't be ideal, it'd be great for Fee, not for Ced, but the other three magic fathers of Gen 1, Lewin, Azel, and Claude, I already have tied up elsewhere. Lewin sounds like a natural fit, as I mentioned earlier, but I want to give him to title U for reasons I'll explain once we get her. So Lex, while he doesn't give exactly ideal stats, he gives Paragon, and quite honestly, that's literally all you need, so yeah, that's all I got for this segment. Sorry about all of that exposition. This is 3 women that we got this chapter. We got to talk about the future. This is the last time we're going to need this much exposition for quite some time, so thank you for bearing with it. Now that we can get back to conquering a castle, the march to this first one isn't that difficult. The ballistas can be very annoying, and normally you would just kill them with Fury, but we don't have that luxury here, so we kind of just have to sit there and let it happen, which is annoying, but Sylvia actually can make for a pretty good dodge tank here, because they really, really love going after Sylvia. Now, another problem here is that the boss of this castle has a sleep staff, which sounds really annoying because I think it actually has like a perfect hit rate in this game. It's not necessarily as rough as it seems. By the time you actually get into range for it to hurt you, you've pretty much dealt with all of his goons and you can just go up and fucking kill him. However, I want to go for style points here and get some more XP on Deidre, so we're going to silence him first. But that staff costs a pretty penny to fix, 30,000 gold, so last time, I had Sigurd go over to all the villages Lewin saved, or what's left of all the villages Lewin saved, and acquire all the money from within. And then he forked over all that money to Deidre. And then Du forked over all the money he had to Deidre. And then Deidre had to kill some people in the arena. And then finally, we barely had enough money to fix the staff. And then I also immediately wasted the usage of it on a fire mage for experience. Look man, Self's gotta get that magic stat up somehow. After Jomke gives a quick double bonk to the boss of that castle, Chagall summons a whole horde of horse units and starts sending them in our direction. Thankfully, this isn't too difficult to deal with because you can just let them come to you and form a 3-man wall. In this case, Arden can finally get some really good time to shine here. Now, while this is all going on, I start moving Lewin back up to get back with the rest of the party, because he's got all that money from saving a few villages, and that Paragon ring Du has is looking mighty tasty. Once Lewin has the Paragon ring, I engage in a very, very devilish strategy called trapping 2 troubadours to toy with them until I mercilessly kill them. See, one of them keeps attacking Sylvia. That troubadour can't kill Sylvia. I heal Sylvia, the other troubadour heals the troubadour, and then the troubadour attacks again. They're trapped, they can't move, so they just have to sit there and wait for Lewin to casually stroll up from all the way down south just to murder both of them in a cage. It is sadistic, perhaps, but a necessary evil nonetheless. After Lewin's had his fill slaughtering helpless women in the cage, he decides armored knights might be a better usage of his time. They're slow, he's very fast, so there isn't too much risk associated with baiting them out with Lewin. The ballista might be a little bit of a problem, but they seem really insistent on attacking Jomke and then just missing. This run really is turning into the Jomke appreciation run, but I am completely fine with that. Once Lewin has ripped and teared until it is done, all that remains is Chagall. Now, Chagall is an interesting difference from bosses prior so far to him, in that he actually has no way to counterattack someone hitting him from a distance. All he has is a silver blade, so Lewin is completely free to just sit next to him, keep slapping him with Elwind until Pavice doesn't activate, and then he will die. Not die. For some reason, we think Chagall is worth sparing, which, By God, what a mistake that turns out to be. And now that the chapter is over, we can take a quick look back at our Deidre. She's reached level 20, which is the highest I have ever gotten this character, and you might be thinking, is that stat spread really gonna help Seliph all that much? To which I respond, probably not, but it's better than doing absolutely nothing, so shut up, I didn't waste my time at all. In addition to Deidre's level, we've also managed to promote Ira and Arden, and get Dew ready for promotion. And we've also gotten Ideen well ready for promotion. Now I could go promote her, buy her a tome, and then have her go through the arena for money, but Ideen really isn't in want of experience or money that much. Healers in this game actually tend to level faster than anyone else, because Mend gives 20 XP, Warp gives 60, and they're all very easily abusable. So Ideen is not in want of anything right now. And that was Chapter 2. All in all, I really don't understand why a lot of you were afraid of this one from me. Like, yeah, the bargain ring was literally impossible, but other than that, this chapter is relatively painless. Next chapter, though, we have all the Cross Knights, and that is something I'm scared of. But for now, we can end this chapter on a high note of succeeding, getting some powerful level ups, and just prepare for the inevitable. Thank you all so much for watching. Doing this series has been an absolute joy, and I love the strong response it's gotten. Remember to like and comment, that makes my serotonin molecules increase, and next time we're going to be able to fight some pirates, die to Eldigan, recruit Title U and Claude, die to Eldigan, and it's just going to be an overall we're going to die to Eldigan. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Infantry Only Fire Emblem 4, the only Fire Emblem Let's Play series on YouTube where I am slowly starting to run out of funny things to say in this opening bit. Now, last time we explained the game more than we actually played the game, so this time on this Let's Play, I think we should play the game more than we explain the game. And before we get to playing the game, I want to explain some things. As always, I want to get mushy on y'all and thank you for the incredible amount of views on the last episode. It is 240 as of the time of this recording. And I also want to remark that I am surprised this series has been keeping up very consistent levels of views. Normally new series tend to fall off around like episode 3 for anything Let's Play or YouTube related. But y'all have been coming back here and have been coming in strong. So thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate it. And with that out of the way, let's actually get started on kicking some ass. Before we're allowed to kick some ass, we need to take care of the arena. And in light of the normal long bullshit I spew here, I'll just give you the rapid fire points. Dew promotes to Thief Fighter, Lewin promotes to Sage, Ideen promotes to High Priest, Jomke promotes to Sniper, and Holm promotes to level 18. And with that out of the way, let's get this chapter started. The first castle we have to capture is a very straight shot from where we start. All we gotta do is walk along the trail and get everyone up there. I make sure to have Lex and Fury walk out and then just sit next to each other so they can get that sweet, sweet love growth going. And for the most part, everyone just moves up. Until there are some Armor Knights to the east I completely forgot about, so then I send Arden to go take care of them. And then we continue moving. Until there's a bunch of Cavaliers to the west that I forgot about, so I have Ira stay back to deal with them. Look, I never claimed once to be very good at this game, I'm just doing something stupid. While those side distractions are being dealt with, I move the main force up north. Now, there are quite a lot of armored and maged goons up ahead, and they're blocking us from getting to that castle. So it's going to require a lot of strategic, clever planning. I don't know what happened to them. Like, Lewin walked up there, I blinked, and then they were all gone. They just vanished into atoms. Crazy how nature works. After that freaky accident, we all know what time it is. We gotta kill a boss, so let's just do the same thing we always do when we have to kill a boss and just move up Prince Jam, who does exactly what he always does, and he nabs that bolt sword. He can't use it, but it's his trophy to accommodate his great win. And after that, it's time for the hard part. Eldigan comes in from the west, and it is everything I was fearing. His knights are many and our men are few. Eldigan himself will instantly kill literally everyone in our entire army if he so much as blinks at them. So in order to deal with this, we're going to need a lot of luck, a lot of skill, a lot How the hell does this keep happening? Like, I swear to God, I look away for 1 second and then just everything is gone. Like, what keeps happening here? Okay, so it's not that easy. What we have to do here is get Latches to talk to Eldigan so he will leave, because not a damn soul in our army can actually fight Eldigan. So the main thing we need to do here is have Lewin stand there as a dodge tank and basically just tank the entire wave himself. Problem with that is if Eldigan so much it looks at him, Lewin is dead. No one can take Eldigan at all. So what I do is I have Ideen wait right next to Lewin, which sounds really stupid. The thing is, the Cross Knights want to attack Ideen. However, Ideen isn't strong enough to one-shot the Knights, which means after they attack her, they're just sitting there weakened, right on the squares in front of Lewin, which means Eldigan can't reach up to attack him. The Misteliane is only a one-range sword. After that, it's a simple matter of sending my units to wipe out the Cross Knights and have Latches go over and talk to Eldigan. Before Eldigan goes, he gives Latches the Earth Sword, which is immediately going out of her inventory and into someone else's. Eldigan goes off and gets himself killed, and this is supposed to be a really sad moment, but personally, I'm just really fucking thankful he's gone. I did not know how to deal with him otherwise. And with that, it's finally time to kill Chagall for the second time, but for the real this time. Now, in front of Chagall, he has a bunch of goons, as you would expect. Now, this is again going to be something we need to plan around. So we gotta gather our men, take a very careful approach, and he can't keep getting away with this! Side note, I forgot to mention, after the capturing the first castle, Deidre got kidnapped. I don't have a joke here, I just forgot to mention that fact and felt like it might be important. I don't know, just a little bit. Once Chagall finally bites the dust for good, we have the final part of this chapter. A fuck ton of pirates to the north. Now, thankfully, we have 3 new units to help us. Not thankfully, they are completely separate from the entire cast, and we are going to have to go save them. However, 2 of those 3 units are our final 2 ladies of this generation, and you know what that means. Time for me to stop the pacing of the video and explain who I'm going to get them to fuck! Thankfully, Tailtil isn't too difficult to discuss. She has 2 magic children, so any magic dad is good. And since Azel is tied up with Ideen, that leaves Lewin and Claude, and I'm picking Lewin. Tinny will get incredible stats from Lewin and Tailtil both, really helping out her in the magic department. Now, the interesting thing to talk about is going to be Arthur. Now, Arthur is in a bit of a tricky spot. When he promotes into the Mage Knight class, which gives him a horse. Normally, this is what makes Arthur really good. Problem in this run is obviously the whole horse thing. So he has to go the entire run unpromoted. Now, my thought process is giving him Forsetti helps amend this, because Forsetti is a win button. However, you might make the observation that I would want to leave Tailtil unmarried, because Arthur's replacement, Amid, doesn't get a horse on promotion. He becomes a mage fighter and gets a sword instead. And maybe in the case of unpromoted Arthur versus promoted Amid, that might be the only way Amid is ever better than Arthur. The problem is Tinny. I'd be screwing her over too, so I can't screw her over that badly. A promoted Tinny and an unpromoted Arthur is going to be much better than whatever Amid can do, so sorry Amid, you almost got a chance to be relevant in a Let's Play. Almost. I'm going to go on record here and say that Brigid is probably the least important person to pair off in the game, because no matter who you pair her up with, Fabale is going to be really good, and Patty is going to be pretty bad. So all you really need is a physical father, and I think we're going to give her Arden, because Fabale will appreciate the strength and defense growths, and I guess Patty could use some swords and some strength and defense. Well, like I said, there's not a whole lot to this one. Finally, we have finished talking about pairings. There are no more pairings to worry about for the rest of this run. Now we can actually start playing the game. Now, a bunch of pirates are going to show up in the bridge between the 2 islands and start trying to kill us. Thankfully, they're all slow axe users, and in this infantry only one, we have a ton of swords. So Du, Arden, Ira, Holn, all of them are getting a shot at cracking open these guys. The boss even has a nice sexy leg ring for us, which increases movement by 3, so one of our not cavalry units is going to be able to run like a cavalry unit. I don't know who I want to give this to, it's Lewin. Now, in order to save Brigid, Claude, and Title U, we just have to get there. Brigid gets absolutely swarmed by enemy pirates, but it's surprising to know that she doesn't really care that much. Putting her on that village there allows her to dodge very easily, and she might get unlucky and get hit once or twice, but she'll be surprisingly okay. And Title U can just kill the pirates because if she gets damaged once, she's just going to proc her wrath and crit them, and Claude's there just in case anything truly terrible happens. So, despite being surrounded on all sides by pirates, it's not as bad as it looks. Now that all the pirates are out of the way, it begins a little bit of an awkward stretch where we're just trying to waste turns. See, the way love works is every character in the game has a set love growth with someone else that will go up no matter what as long as they are both alive. However, if you put two units directly next to each other and wait, they get more love points than other people. So since I want to pair Brigid off with Arden and I want to pair Title U off with Lewin, I just have to have them sit next to each other, and they will continue to gain love points until turn 50, when all love point gaining stops. This is mainly so that you don't have people accidentally fall in love chapter 1 or 2 before you even get other options. So they're going to stick together like glue and really not pay attention to social distancing. While all of that's going on, I take care of 3 side objectives on the map that I need to take care of before we finish it. Dew waits in front of the tower to the east and gets the wind sword, a handy little sword that I'm honestly not too sure if I want to keep in his inventory to give to Ulster or if I want to trade it over to Arden so he can pass it down to Patty. I'm not all that sure. The second objective is making sure Ideen gets that restore staff to the east, which is a very helpful staff, which mainly is just to stop sleep edges from being a damn problem. And then the third thing to do is make sure that Ideen talks to Brigid so that Brigid can get the U-Fel, and at that point, her offensive potential skyrockets, as does her ability to drain her own wallet. Finally, the last thing I take care of is going through the arena with Title U and Brigid. Brigid, super easy, I don't even need the U-Fel. Title U is easier than you would think, because the way the arena works in this game, as I mentioned earlier, is if you lose, you don't die, you just drop to 1 HP. 1 HP means Title U's Wrath triggers, and Wrath doesn't trigger like it does in later games where you get a boosted crit chance if you're low. Here, you get a guaranteed crit if you are low. So it's actually easier for Title U to die, quote unquote, come back, and then win. So she can just blitz through the arena like that. Also, due to Dew's doing, I was able to give her all of his gold, and she has that nice Paragon ring, so she gets a lot of XP here. And at long last, after Lewin has made mincemeat of an entire chapter, Title U and Brigid have both gained a lot of levels. I am able to finish the chapter quite easily. The last few pirates in front of the fortress go down in no time, and I'm able to put this chapter behind me with absolutely nothing going wrong whatsoever. I love it. I fucking love it! Sorry about that, folks. Well, you see, what happened here is Finn's love growth with Brigid and Title U is so high, because he leaves at the end of that chapter, that if you manage to kill Chagall at 18 turns, they will actually fall in love with each other, no matter what, due to how high their love growth is. Now, this is fairly easy to avoid, just don't kill Chagall that quickly, or have Finn already married to someone else. I killed Chagall, I went through the footage, at exactly the turn needed for them to fall in love and have this happen. I literally LTC'd Brigid out of her right pairing on an infantry only run. I don't even know how that's fucking possible. Well, okay, I actually do have an out here. You see, I made a save file before I seized the first castle because I thought to myself seizing this early and having Eldigan come in might be a mistake. But that means I would have to replay the entire chapter from that early on just to fix Brigid's pairing, when I've gone on record saying that it really doesn't matter what pairing she has. And am I really gonna do that? The things I do for Arden. Hello everyone and welcome back to Infantry Only Fire Emblem 4, the only Fire Emblem Let's Play series on YouTube where... Last time we were able to take out Chapter 3 and deal with Eldigan in a relatively casualty-free manner, and now that Eldigan depression's done, it's time to move on to Lewin depression. But before we get into that, I actually have one thing I want to say first, and guess what? It's me saying that I love you. I say this every goddamn time, but I will never get old of saying it. I am really thankful for the attention that this series has gotten, and it has continued to almost grow in views over time, which is very uncommon for a series with multiple episodes. Normally it kinda dips down as it goes along, but y'all have been keeping this going strong, and I thank you for it immensely. And now that I've got done explaining my one thing I wanted to do before we kick this episode off, I gotta explain one thing before we kick this episode off. Before this chapter begins, we start an event that is occurring at an uncomfortably frequent amount of times. Sigurd saying goodbye to someone without knowing that he's never going to see them again. Quan, Ethlin, and Finn all leave the army at the start of this chapter, and the main thing to note about that is Ethlin. Her weapons and items pass down to Leif, who, as you may or may not know, starts one of the chapters in the second generation with just Finn and Nana to help defend a castle, which is a bit of a problem because I can't use Finn and Nana, so we have to have Leif survive on his own. So I gave Ethlin the defense ring and the earth sword to help Leif have some sort of longevity. I honestly don't know if it's going to be enough. I'm kind of just praying to God that's going to work out. We'll see how that works when we get there. Chapter 4 of Fire Emblem 4 is actually very simple in concept. You go north, go back, then go south. It's really nothing complicated in terms of layout. What is complicated is the terrain on the layout. It's littered with woods and trees and shit, and it can just be really difficult to traverse. But thankfully, we can keep everyone together relatively well to deal with the threats ahead of us. The immediate threat is a fuck ton of wind mages, and for those of you who don't know, wind magic is kind of just the best in genealogy, with no real argument, I think, so they can put our team in mincemeat if we let them. Thankfully, we have Lewin, and as we know, when Lewin wants something to disappear, it disappears. However, before we can even truly finish dealing with the wind mages, there's already a horde of Pegasus Knights down our back to just swoop in and pluck us from the earth. So just make sure you have Ideen and Claude in the back so that they can't be destroyed, and just send everyone out to deal with them. You want to take care of the commander as quickly as possible so those pesky little commander stars don't make her knights more annoying than they already are, but they actually don't do that much damage, they're just fast, so you can quickly pick them off with pretty much everyone. It looks really scary, but it's honestly not that big a deal. The trek up to the castle in the north isn't too interesting. I leave some people behind like Arden and Brigid just so I don't have to have them all go back when it's all done. Yeah, the backtracking in this chapter isn't as bad as people like to make it out to be, and I'll explain why, but I do just want to leave them down to alleviate some of the headache. I just go forward with a small group and just pick off people as they come. Not a whole lot interesting really happens during this little stretch here. At the end of the trek, the boss has removed the bridge to his castle to prevent us from getting across. Unfortunately for him, Dew studied bridges in elementary school and is able to show off his alchemic mastery by creating stones from water. After this, we just waltz on over the bridge and wipe out everything with our mage combo of Lewin and Tight Till You. The boss himself is instantly wiped out by Lewin as well. He's level 30, he doesn't need the experience, but it's thematic, and that's what's really important in this kind of run. The theme of it. Before we seize that castle though, we want to just start moving everyone back down south to prepare for the second half of this chapter. And while we're doing that, we manage to find the village that has the Barrier Sword, an exclusive sword that increases defense to its user and is only gettable by Sylvia. She has to do a little dance and excite an entire population by shaking her ass. Now, let's see here, what's good music to put to this? Yeah, I think that's a little slow. Not enough zombies for this to really be fitting. Oh yeah, now we're talking! Once Sigurd seizes the castle to the north, it's time to watch one of the more depressing scenes in this game. The absolute slaughter of a legion of Pegasus Knights, as Manya goes out to meet Pamela's forces in the south. Now, at first, things seem quite evenly matched, with neither side really being the stronger side. That is, until the Bow Knights of Jungbi come in like the untagged ugly bastards in your wholesome hentai dojins. Once they arrive, the tide is turned completely, as their bows completely fuck over Manya's entire unit and take her life. This isn't really talked about because this is the least sad of like 5 different massacres in this game, which just goes to show you what kind of game we're playing here. And this is where I'm going to take a quick moment to defend the backtracking in this chapter, because while you're making a rushed pace to get back to your home base, you have to just watch this massacre happen. Like, it takes control out of your hands on purpose just to really sell the tragedy of this scene. But people look at it and just go, backtracking bad, and doesn't actually think about how it adds to the story. So, this has nothing to do with the infantry only part of this run. I just want to defend Fire Emblem 4 for a moment because, god damn, people really think this game is worse designed than it actually is. Once Manya falls, Andre moves on to seize the capital, and Pamela goes north to seize the other castle that we just captured. And, sad as it is to say, we warp Arden on over there to deal with the Pegasus Knights. Sorry, bud. I love you, but not even in this run can you truly escape the job of castle duty. As for taking the castle that we want to capture, we're going to have to deal with the fact that civilians are running for their lives from axe-wielding maniacs. The whole gimmick here is that you can rescue them, and whoever rescues them gets an absolutely free level up. Problem is, they start pretty far away from where we can go, and there's a good chance that some of them will just die before even on a mounted run we could do anything about it. So just accept dead people as dead people, and if you feel even a little bit bad, don't worry. Remember, green units aren't people. Once we rescue the civilians, the actual seizing of the castle isn't all that interesting. It's just a small handful of axe goons and wind mage goons. Once they're taken care of, we decide to go for a change of pace and have Brigid shoot at something until it dies, giving Prince Jam and Lewin a break. After that, it's just a simple seizing of the castle, and then Lewin achieves something funny. I don't know where I was going with that. It is at this moment that Lewin receives the magical tome Forseti, aka one of the most busted weapons in the history of the entire Fire Emblem franchise. It jacks up his stats, it alone does a fuck ton of damage, it's just a weapon that makes Lewin unstoppable. Granted, it costs an arm and a leg to repair even a single usage of it, and there's really not that much left for Lewin to dominate, but hey, while it's there, it turns Lewin into a legendary unit. But while that's going on, there's some trouble up north. Arden alone is stood to defend the castle against an entire legion of Pegasus Knights, who just emerged victorious from a battle a little bit ago. He doesn't have any holy weapons or broken skills, just a small dinky hand axe to fend off an entire army of Pegasus Knights. This is gonna truly be Arden's most difficult battle. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. They're all kinda stupid. Arden just looked at him funny, threw his little boomerang axe. They all died. It's whatever, no big deal. As for our main group, the march towards the final castle is met halfway by a group of lady swordswomen. Now, they have some status swords and their leader actually can do some damage, so we take this with caution. And by take this with caution, I mean we just have Lewin fucking nuke the leader. With this, the rest can fall fairly easy enough. And, should any of their status swords stop us, Ideen is right there with the restore staff to stop it from being a problem. Because seriously, status conditions aren't nearly as bad as a lot of people make them out to be, as long as you have a pretty blonde healer ready to restore. Seriously, not that difficult. And so, the finale of the chapter is upon us, and again, despite being level 30 and not needing any boss experience whatsoever, I have Lewin nuke the boss with Forseti. It's about the theme. Lewin deserves this, he deserves the world. And once that's done, you'd think it's time for me to say sayonara and wrap this all up. But before we do, something really interesting happened after I already finished the chapter, and I really need to talk about it really quick. So for shits and giggles, I had Arden attempt the final arena fight, but no, chapter's over, it doesn't matter what the fuck happens to him. He proceeds to dodge 2 95s in a row, activate Pavice, and then successfully kill the final opponent and get the XP and gold. I just had to bring that up because I literally stopped the speed up because I really wasn't expecting to win and was just like, what the fuck? And with that, Lewin Depression hours are over. It was a relatively fun chapter. I really liked Chapter 4, more so for its story and theming, but it wasn't nearly as bad as I was afraid of. So, with all that said and done, here we are, boys and girls, and women and men, and everything in between, and everything that's neither. We're on the final showdown of part 1 of Genealogy. Fuck it, it's at the end of the video, I'm not re-recording this. I thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment. I really am always thankful for how much traction this series gets. I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. So, I will see you all next time for the conclusion of Generation 1. See you all then, and have a wonderful day. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Infantry Only Fire Emblem 4, the only Fire Emblem Let's Play on YouTube where I literally have had to record this like 6 times because I am not smart enough to come up with a joke for this opening bit, and I am struggling. So this episode, we're going to be dealing with the final chapter of Generation 1, which is a long-ass trek through a desert while getting hailed on by fire tomes. But that fun part has to wait, because our first issue is going to come up right out of the goddamn gate. See, what we have to do is go teach Sigurd that he's a Fire Emblem Lord by having his father killed off. The problem is, Sigurd's dad is running away from axemen in hot pursuit behind him, behind a wall of armor knights, and he has to talk to Sigurd first. Now, technically, this is optional, as if Sigurd's father dies, Seliph will still get the Typh ring, but it's broken, and also that's taking this way out like a little bitch, and we're gonna have Sigurd talk to his father. Problem, normally you'd be able to just run up there with Sigurd, but he can't be in any battles, so he can't actually frontline. We have to have someone else frontline, clear the way for Sigurd, and then have Sigurd move up, so it's a bit more annoying than it has to be. Thankfully, we still have Hurricane Lewin, and those guards are looking an awful lot like the eastern coast of America. Lewin manages to take care of a good chunk of them on his own, but Title U, Prince Jam, and the rest are right there to help clean up even more. After that, it's a very simple matter of getting Sigurd over and talking to his father as he dies a heroic death to give Sigurd a broken sword. Then, with Ideen's rescue staff, we can get him out of the way of those axemen and then move someone else up to take care of them. Next up, we have to brace for those axe knights coming up ahead. Thankfully, we can tank them very easily. With our tank, Arden is actually able to do what he sets out to do and tank an oncoming enemy force. And thanks to the fact that enemies there have negative attack speed, even in the final chapter of a generation, Arden just needs to slap on a sword and he's able to actually one-round all of them. It's actually kind of magical to see Arden being capable of taking down enemies on the final chapter all by himself. It's kind of cathartic, in a way. Gotta be honest. Once we deal with all those axe knights, Genealogy decides to throw another large group of units that all use the same weapon type at us. This time, bows. This is the Bow Knight Squadron that took out Manya and all her Pegasus Knights, led by Ideen and Brigade's brother. So, we decide, rather than just leaving Lewin there to sweep like we normally would, we put Brigade there instead with the Ufel, tanking most of the hits, though it is a little dicey, I get unlucky on some hits, and she basically wipes out that force single-handedly. There are a few stragglers, including Andre himself, but Brigade again makes quick work of him, deciding I'll give the kills to her instead of Lewin for revenge, which Lewin's already level 30, and I'm actually going to start taking the whole he steals XP thing a little bit more seriously, though it probably doesn't matter. I mean, Fabale is fucking Fabale, he doesn't really need stats. Once all that's taken care of, I move Arden down south to trigger a special event for him. Not many people see this one, because first of all, who would take Arden into the final chapter, and not many people do, and it's also required for him to be married for this event to trigger, so yeah, not a lot of people are doing that. Basically, Arden's like, I have a family now, I can't go out dying, which, you know how well that ends up, and he basically finds a secret book on the ground. I don't think it's actually called anything, it's just a book that gives him +5 skill, so it's kind of like a super secret book, if anything. Which, extra skill on Arden? Very good, that stat sucks for him. Does he have very much time left to use it? You'll see, it's a bit more handy than you think for us. Before we move on to conquering the first castle, I should make note of the enemies to the west. See, it's a small group of armor knights and a few bandits that are going to move up and try to capture our home castle. I just have Ira and Holm deal with them, and have Azel go around taking care of the bandits. It's not anything too fancy, but it is something that happened, and something I should make note of. Once it's time to take down Langbolt, I decide there's only one fitting way to have this confrontation. An epic Baron on General Armor Knight fight between him and Arden. I have great faith in Arden, he's done wonderful for us so far, and I believe he will be able to take down Langbolt with absolutely no problems whatsoever. So anyway, as I was saying, we move Lewin up to attack the boss, and he should be able to handle things no problem, you know? There was never an idea for anyone else. He's going to activate Forseti, and it's going to go off without a single hitch, and we're going to... Oh, hey, Pavice activated. But that's okay, we're just going to activate Adept, and we're going to hit him with Forseti for real this time, because it's going to do... Oh, hey, Pavice activated. Rather than bitch about Pavice endlessly, real quick, I'm going to explain what we do with Azel. You see, society has progressed past the need for Azel, so I promote him to Mage Knight. Now this makes him mounted, so I can't use him in combat. I wasn't really intending to at this point. We don't really need him around anymore. His non-promotion gain stats are more of a liability now. So since he's promoted, his stats will go up a little bit, so he's able to give Rana a bit more in the stat department. His items don't matter at all because, you know, he's not passing anything on to Lester that he wants, nor is he even going to be using Lester. So, this is farewell to Azel. Thanks for everything, man. You made the first chapter possible. To spare you all my mental anguish, eventually Pavice does stop deciding to be a piece of shit, and Lewin is able to take Langbolt down. Sigurd seizes the castle, and we get the scene where he sends Seliph, Oyfei, and Shannon away. This is a touching scene, and it's kind of clear at this point that Sigurd's not going to see Seliph again. It's never outright stated that something bad's about to happen, but there's just an air of dread all throughout this chapter. But who knows, maybe everything will go just okay. I decide now is a good time to hold that fast forward button and just get through the arena. It's gotta be done, we gotta get our last bit of gold, get the last bit of XP, and just make sure everyone is ready to hand off things to their children. After all, it's not like anything plot interesting or significance happening right now, it's a perfect low moment in the story to just take care of all this shit. And now it's time to actually begin the trek south through the desert. Now, there's not too much here, it's just being pelted by some fire mages with Meteor. I was worried initially because if they target Sigurd, he'll be in combat, and that's a no-go. But they seem much more interested in the likes of Holm, Tytiliu, and Claude instead of Sigurd, which... I don't know why they want to go after the guys with some of the highest bulk in the army, at least for magic, but if they want to keep throwing meteors at Claude for like 3 damage, by all means, go ahead, I am not complaining. And now it is time to talk about what may very well be my favorite moment in this entire challenge so far. Arden versus the entire legion of Thracian knights that took out Quan and Ethlin. And he just goes to fucking town. There are no survivors. Arden and Arden alone just wipes out that entire force. It is so amazing to watch one of my favorite characters and someone who's often mocked as a terrible unit, which, okay, yeah, he is, but shut up, just decimating the entire force. And here's the absolute real best kicker to it all. The weapon he does it with is Finn's Brave Lance. That's a level of irony and just the icing on the cake of an absolutely beautiful moment. Take a moment and revel in your victory, Arden. You deserve it and so, so much more. I love you, Arden. Take care, my friend. After that incredible moment, things die down on the intensity scale as we make another trek south towards the end of the entire first generation. Now, so a lot of people consider this a boring trek through the desert, but I actually want to defend it for the theming. It's the march to the final moment of Sigurd's journey. Everyone has conversations talking about the finality of it, and it just builds up the tension to the final clash with Reptor. Now I know I'm getting into a slippery slope of excusing anything boring in the game with the theming. Oh man, why was there boring backtracking in Chapter 4? Oh, it's for the theming. Why is there a boring trek south with not a lot going on now? Oh, it's for the theming. Why did you kill those children in the summer of 2009? Oh, don't worry man, it was for the theming. It gets a slippery slope, I know, but I really think it's justified here. Once you actually get to Duke Reptor's forces, it's actually not too difficult. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're decently powerful, and Reptor himself is no joke, but the chapter will instantly become no problem once you kill Reptor himself. And he tends to lead the charge of his men. so it's very easy to single him out with whoever you had being strong as fuck. In a normal playthrough, it's probably Sigurd with Typhring. In our playthrough, it's Lewin with Forseti, and it probably might be in your playthrough too. It's a very, very simple way to end it, but goddamn is it not a great climax in terms of finally bringing this fucker down. And now, for the grand finale. Sigurd, level 5, has not seen a single round of combat, 0 XP. We go in here. 0 XP. 0. 0. 0. And 0. None of them have fought in a single battle. Then, we go down, and here it is. Our lovely goons. All of them. No horse. Strong as fuck. And Sigurd finished Generation 1 of Genealogy of the Holy War without a single cavalry unit doing anything. I have to press A again, fuck. And so our trek through Generation 1 is finally finished. This run was a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be, and not as hard as I thought it was going to be either. This was super relaxed, super fun, and it's only halfway done. We still have to put up with the entirety of the second generation. So I hope you all enjoyed everything up until this point, and I will see you guys next time for when we tackle Chapter 1, or 6. Fuck, god damn it, the last moment of the video and I fucked it up dramatically.
Change the world. My final message. Goodbye.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Infantry Only Fire Emblem 4, the only Fire Emblem Let's Play series on YouTube where, dear god, I'm actually doing this into the second generation. Anyways, last time we managed to cap off the end of the first generation, completely ignoring Sigurd and the others and proving that you can do something with a very stupid idea. Now it's onward to the second generation where we gotta do all of this again for 6 more chapters. Thankfully, the second generation tends to be a lot easier than the first with optimal pairings, and, well, we work with what we got. And before we begin the second generation proper, I just want to give a huge thank you for all the great responses to the first generation's playthrough. I really had a lot of fun doing this, and the consistent response for this series has really just been wonderful to see. I'm glad you all really like this. I was trying something new here, I wasn't sure if it would really take off, but it did, and I'm really thankful for that. So, without further ado, let's end Arden's tale and begin, I don't know, Ulster's? There's not really a mascot for this run in the second generation like there was with the first. And God has decided to smile on us, because unlike Generation 1, we actually start with a handful of foot units. Seliph, Larcey, Ulster, and Lana are all foot units, so we don't have to worry about benching any of them right out of the gate. Now they're all going to be very competent at what they do. Larcey and Ulster have Dew's blood in them, giving them some decent bulk with soul and just good stats all around, and Lana is a magic demon with Ideen and Azel's blood in her veins. She has a lot of magic and also a lot of speed that'll come into play earlier. Selip's the one that struggles a little bit, but it's not too bad. Sure, lacking the level ups from Sigurd hurts, but he's still able to do things with that silver sword and the pursuit skill, so not all is lost there. That is, until we actually try to put people in combat. Because, Larcey fucking dies. Yeah, she gets hit by both 27s from the early axe users and gets killed immediately on the first group of enemies she comes across. So, this run is letting us know right now that this will not be any easier than the first generation, even though I thought it would be. Now, as if to spite me, she actually activates Soul when she was at full HP on one of the enemies that killed her earlier. Which, Jesus Christ, rub salt in the wound, why don't you? But thankfully, the second time around, it doesn't go as poorly as the first, and we're actually able to dodge under 30% hits. Wow, amazing! After a little bit of progress into the chapter, Oyfe, Lester, and Delmond all appear from the west, ready to help. And for us, they're ready to just sit in the castle and never move again, because all 3 of them are on horses, which is a complete violation of our only rule. Now, before we send them all away, we do want to have Lester talk with Lana, as it'll be a conversation that results in her gaining a single point of luck because her brother cares about her, which is sweet. There's also a conversation between Oife and Seliph, but it doesn't actually do anything. It's just there to give Oife and Seliph a bit of a character moment, which, I appreciate, but this isn't exactly a run dedicated to character development. The trek eastward isn't really met with all that much difficulty. See, since the game knew you had virtually nothing but sword units, it threw nothing but axe units in your way. Awfully nice of you, game. And it also means that we can slaughter them all very easily. Larcei, Ulster, Seliph all pick up in roughly equal amount of kills as we go forward. However, I left Seliph the Paragon band before we ended Generation 1, so he's actually getting a bit more experience in him. Which is good, because we actually are able to use the person we need to put at all the castles now, so I just wanted to give him a little boost in damage power. But of course, bad RNG had to get us one more time before we ended this first segment. When fighting against the boss at the first castle, Larcei gets hit by a 5% and nearly dies in a single shot. But I'm not gonna lie to you guys, getting hit by that 5% would somehow piss me off less than if the 10% chance for Pavice activated. It didn't. I guess it had its fill fucking with us for the first generation. But don't worry, Pavice will be back. It always comes back. And after that first castle goes down, it is time for God to make his debut. Arthur, alongside Fee, shows up and is now ours to command. And thanks to pairing Title U off with Lewin, he's packing that Forseti right from the gate. Now, this is going to start by making him absolutely bonkers busted, but towards the end it's going to make it so that he can stay relevant, because Arthur has the same problem as El has. He promotes into a horse mage. So hopefully Forseti's going to keep him relevant for the rest of the run. At the very least, Lewin's blood in his veins from level 1 means that boy is capping speed, with or without promotion gains. And with that out of the way, it's time to make our choice between which horny axe brother we want in our army more. Do we want Yohalavir, the powerful axe fighter turned into warrior? Or do we want Johann, the mounted... Oh wait, I guess that choice is easy, isn't it? Normally the choice is a bit interesting, as Johann has a mount, but Yohalavir is better at actually killing things. Most people just pick Johann, but I actually like Yohalavir a bit more. He's pretty fun to use in combat because the charge skill on an archer is super fun. Especially with Yohalavir's very high HP pool, he can definitely inherit some of Prince Jomke's will and shoot at something until it dies. But in this run, we don't have a goddamn choice. It's the non-mounted unit all the way. Plus, he gives us the better Nosferatu tome for Julia. Wait a minute, fuck, I didn't mention Julia at all, did I? After conquering the first castle, Lewin decides to abandon yet another child, which means we have to be Julia's family now. Julia's main claim to fame is an incredible magic stat, good at base and a 100% growth in it, so she's capable of ripping through enemies with her magic tomes and healing for virtually full with just a Menstaff. Other than magic, her other stats are okay. Her resistance is pretty good, and her speed is alright. Her skill, defense tends to suffer, cause, she's a mage. So that's why recruiting Yohalavir is much better for us, because through him, we get the Nosferatu tome for her, which helps her survive by giving her some healing on the front lines. Conversely, if we took Johann, she gets the Aura tome, which, while it is a stronger weapon than Nosferatu, she'll be dead before she can fire it off as many times. So, good for us! Okay, with that all out of the way, it's time to actually kill Johann. His Axe Knights really don't provide that much of a problem, especially because everyone that can fight uses a goddamn sword. Unfortunately, Julia doesn't have her tome quite yet, so she and Lana are just going to be back there healing, but the combination of Ulster, Seliph, and Larcei is more than enough to deal with Johann's Axe Knights. It's not them that's the problem. What's interesting is what the fuck Yohalavir starts doing. Rather than just going forward to fight like he always does, Yohalavir decides to turn all of his men around to go chase after Arthur, who was just killing a bandit trying to terrorize his village. So this leads to an actually comical chase as, since they're not breathing down my neck, I just have Arthur go down south and draw all of Yohalavir's Axe Knights towards him, and then just meet him right before Johann's castle and just deal with them there. I don't know if this is a common thing that happens, but this was the first time I've ever seen this happen, and I'm gonna be honest, it was really funny. Once we're able to meet Yohalvir in the south, it's just a matter of killing as many of his men as possible before we talk to him. Now that might be making you think, but Steven, they join your side, why are you killing them? That's easy. Right now, I don't see them as people, I see them as experience, and when they become green units, I still don't see them as people, I see them as a hindrance, because remember, green units aren't people. And besides, Yohalvir doesn't seem to mind all that much that we just killed his men for experience points. I'm sure he understands. With him on our side, his green units decide to start the final phase of the battle for us, which really sucks because now Seliph doesn't have a moment to go get Julia her tome. This battle is fairly simple. We have some forests right there, it's a bunch of axe knights, it's not all that different compared to what we had to go through with Johann. However, the difference is now we have Yohalvir, which is very nice because his accost skill, or charge, sorry, translation means I always say the wrong goddamn name, is going to activate fairly frequently, because due to his high health pool, it's actually a fairly good chance of activating just at base, and with that we're able to deal with things mostly unhindered. Mostly. See, the leader of this squadron of knights has a brave axe to drop, and that really only benefits Yohalvir, so I want to have him deal the killing blow. Unfortunately, that doesn't quite work out as well as I wanted to, so I end up killing him with Arthur. What's funny is, in trying to reset because I didn't do what I wanted to do with the attack, I accidentally shrink my tab of the SNES emulator, and you can kind of see me in the background of OBS panicking as I was just trying to process what the fuck I just did. A little goofy behind the scenes action for you. Just thought y'all might appreciate that silliness. Once those knights are wiped out, it's just a matter of last moment of the chapter cleanups for us. I have Lana engage in some warp staff abuse, just like her mother, to give her a bunch of cheap level ups. I have Yohalvir and Larse cling to each other and go around to villages, cause Yohalvir needs gold for that there brave axe. And pairings don't matter at all in Generation 2, like they really fucking don't. So I just pair Yohalvir and Larse up because I like them together. I think they're nice. Arthur kills the boss. There's really not a whole lot else that happens for the rest of the run here, with the exception of one small event I want to draw attention to. If you visit a specific village with Seliph in this chapter, the village elder will appear instead of whatever event normally happens, and he attempts to offer Seliph his daughter's hand in marriage. He gets all blushy and cute as he tries to process the situation rationally. This is just a fun, charming moment for Seliph's character, and while I do prefer Sigurd's tragic downfall for my lord of the game, Seliph's personality is very charming, and I definitely like scenes like this. It gives him a lot more charm, especially compared to the lords that came prior in terms of writing. Like, put him next to Fire Emblem 1 Marth or Alm or Celica, and he really does stand out a lot from that crowd. I don't know, just thought it was worth mentioning. And with that, we have successfully taken Infantry-only Fire Emblem 4 to the next generation. This chapter was much easier than the first chapter of the first generation, mainly because we have more than 2 fucking units we can use, and hopefully the rest of the game will follow suit. But that's certainly not going to happen next chapter, as we have to deal with Leaf defending an entire horde of armor knights all by his lonesome. And spoiler alert, it's actually a lot easier than you would think. I hope you all really enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think. As always, do the like, comment, and subscribe thing that I really should ask people to do more often. And I'll see y'all next time. Have a wonderful day, y'all. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Infantry Only Fire Emblem 4, the only Fire Emblem Let's Play series on YouTube that suddenly stopped for a long period of time, and then actually gets back to where it left off. Last time, I don't fucking know, this was like several months ago. It was 1 month ago. And what happened was we did Chapter 6, started Generation 2, and now we're going to go on to the next chapter of Generation 2, that being Passing the Desert. The chapter where not only do we need to keep Leaf alive from impending death, but we also need to traverse a very, very boring trek through a desert. Yeah, not gonna lie, this is not one of my favorite chapters in the game. In fact, I think it might actually be my least favorite. But hey, before we get into this chapter, we need to talk about what we have to talk about before every goddamn chapter, the arena. Now, the arena is actually much easier to do in Generation 2. This is because your units have inheritance, better weapons, and are just all around better combat units than Gen 1. So the arena goes by much easier for everyone, and almost everyone is able to just clear it outright. So there are some exceptions. Julia and Yohalavir are going to struggle a little bit, but overall we can just get everyone with a fuck ton of money and a fuck ton of experience, which means promotions and all can come much sooner, which is going to be very helpful on a run when we are purposefully crippling ourselves. Beginning of the chapter, we meet our two anti-turtle two new units, Patty and Shannon, who are separated from the group and surrounded by dark magic using fuckers. Now, Patty is just like Dew. Pretty horrendous combat early on, even if you give her great inheritance, but when she promotes, she becomes good enough. Shannon, meanwhile, is going to be one of the cornerstones of our army, as he's a pre-promoted swordsmaster with a holy weapon. The only problem is, with his starting inventory, that holy weapon is kind of the only weapon he can use, which means even with the ease of arena in this generation, he's gonna tear through gold like no one's business, so do keep that in mind. The steel blade isn't the best for him, as its weight tends to weigh him down to where he stops dodging attacks reliably, but you gotta do what you gotta do. And when you're surrounded with only a little girl thief to help, you're gonna have to use your holy weapon. Now, on the other edge of the map, we have our other group of anti-turtle incentives. You know what, no, I'm going to call them what they are, anti-turtle incentives. Leaf, Finn, and Nana. Now, what you're supposed to do here is have Leaf and Nana cower in a corner while Finn slaughters everything. But we can't do that due to the whole no horse requirement. So we're going to have Finn and Nana cower in a corner while Leaf slaughters everything. And I was really worried about this particular bit more than anything else, but as it turns out, I forgot how weak the Armor Knights sent in really are. Leaf really is never at a point where he's in danger. The only thing I'm afraid of is them constantly just ignoring Leaf and going after Finn and Nana, but where I kept them seems to work well enough for me. And this is going to be the last I talk about these three for this entire chapter, because it's going to get really boring for me to just say, oh yeah, and while I'm doing this, Leaf's just kind of vibing. So yeah, we're not going to come back to this. Just know that after every single turn, Leaf kills some Armor Knights. Okay, so with all of that out of the way, we can finally get out of the castle after, dear God, 3 minutes? I feel like that's some kind of record for this channel. Anyways, once we get out of the castle, the first thing we have to deal with is a fuck ton of dark magic users, which actually is a decent challenge. They're pretty bulky, so you can't just one-shot them very easily, and they do magic damage. And remember, this is a Kaga game, so resistance isn't real. So this does provide a decent challenge to get rid of, but as long as you play a little bit safe, you'll be alright. Though Shannon and Leaf are supposed to be anti-turtle incentives, they're pretty safe on their own, so you don't actually have to worry that much. Just don't go to a complete halt, and you should be able to get to Shannon in time just fine. Which is kind of the problem I have with this chapter. Once you deal with the dark magic users at the very beginning, there's nothing else in this part of the chapter that you have to fight. All that you have to do is take the arduous journey through the desert with Seliph, as he's forced to just walk to the castle in a very long roundabout way. Now I know what I said in chapter 5, oh, the thing in the desert was for the theming, but that's not the case here. It really feels like they thought you had to save Shannon, but you don't. He's completely fine on his own. So all you do is just waste a fuck ton of time doing absolutely nothing as Seliph goes over to the castle, and it's really fucking boring. I mean, quite honestly, this is making me think we gave the prequels a bad rap, because after having to be in the desert for even this amount of time, I'd kill some fucking kids too, why not? Once you seize the castle, Lewin gives Seliph a speech about good and evil and all that philosophical bullshit, and then the ground somehow terraforms into ledges Seliph can walk down easier, which I ain't gonna fucking complain about that, it makes getting out of there much easier. And now we have the second part of the chapter, a long trek southward with not a lot going on until a fuck ton of things all at once. Now, I'm not as critical to this because this long, empty stretch is kind of a part of the enemy plan and story of the chapter. It's not the best, but maybe I'm just more okay with it because I know what it can be like to move 2 tiles at a time and want to fucking die. Once you get close to the castle, the enemy's front line will come to greet you, and all things considered, it is a fairly formidable front line. You got some armor knights, you got some mages, and it's all coming just to make your life miserable. Add on top of that the boss firing at you with bolting, and you take a lot of damage. Now, I know this is where I give some sort of clever strategy, or, you know, something intelligent. However, all you can really do with this part is just pray to God the AI is stupid and doesn't kill units it can easily kill. And wouldn't you know, lucky for us, the AI in Fire Emblem 4 is stupid. Yeah, for whatever reason, Fire Emblem 4 AI really likes to attack Shannon. Not, Lana or Larcey or someone frail, no. They really want to throw themselves at Shannon, a god with a sword that makes him nigh untouchable. Why they do this? I have no idea, but I'm going to profit from it. So basically, as long as you are relatively safe enough, they'll all just run at Shannon and die. I mean, sure, my Larcey was in a little bit of danger, but thankfully the only guy that decided to attack her when she was at 8 HP was a fucking ballista with a 0% chance to hit her. I mean, he was a little confused, but he had the spirit. Once you seize the southern castle, the enemy to the north starts his plan and sends out his boatload of cavalry units to come down and sweep you while you're weakened, quote-unquote, from the bottom forces' assault. Now, I was a little worried about this part because I didn't remember where Ares was exactly, as he is on a horse, and as you know, horse is no good. But Ares starts a safe distance away, and by safe distance I mean 2 tiles, that still scares me, and he's able to go to the south and completely avoid the rest of the cavalry. He's never in danger of accidentally being in combat unless you're an absolute moron. And I am a moron, but not a moron enough to mess up a straight line. While that's going on, to the east we have the introduction of Tiny, no, not that one, the cute little girl. Yeah, there we go, that one. Tiny arrives, and we need to talk to her with Arthur in order to recruit her, and, being the daughter of Lewin, she's going to be a very good asset to our cause, especially because, unlike her brother, she can promote. So we just have to be wary of them too. They don't come at you as quickly as the Cavaliers, obviously, but just keep them in mind and be ready to get them when the time comes. Thankfully, Jabaro's men are a complete pushover, so we can quickly deal with them. They aren't very powerful, they don't have pursuit, they're kinda just walking meat bags of experience, and money if you've got Patty around. So just take care of them, no problem. Make sure you spread the experience around evenly, and it's not too difficult at all to manage. I even have Arthur over there fucking off to the east with the mages, which are kind of a problem. The 3 mage sisters, not that aren't tinny, all can do fairly good damage, but if you have the fucking Forsetti tome, they really aren't that much of a threat. Though, if you didn't have Arthur with Forsetti, you might want to watch out for him, as they actually are able to hurt quite a bit. While you do need to move Seliph up north to seize the castle, you don't actually have to send that many people. Once you wipe out the Cavaliers, there's not that much else up there you have to worry about. So send a bulk of your army east to deal with the Mage Sisters, and send Seliph and 1 or 2 other people to go up north. And don't forget to have Ares up there as well, as we need him to get our dancer, Lean, who is, well, she's a dancer. She's going to be really useful. It's kind of hard for a dancer not to be useful, especially when we're doing stupid stuff like this. Did I make this same joke when we got Sylvia? I don't know, it's been a while. And after that, the rest of the chapter goes fairly swimmingly. We make sure to hit up the arena for those units that we just got this chapter, so Shannon, Patty, Tinny, and all that, and we just move east. There's not much to stop us anymore. It's 3 generals and the boss, and they all are generals, so they all can have Pavice, but as long as you don't get too unlucky with it, it's not actually dangerous because the generals don't move. Reinforcements do come out of the castle, but it's like 1 guy at a time. You're fine. Just don't get butt-fucked by Pavice. Yeah, just don't have that happen. I should be saying a joke here, but all that's going through my mind is my anger towards the skill of Pavice. So, head empty. Before we bring this chapter to a close, let's real quick go over the 5 new units we got that we can add to our army. Starting with Shannon, who is a fucking god. His base stats, his growths, the Balmung, he's just going to tear through enemies. And I said this before, but it's really true. The AI really likes to target him, and I have no idea why. So that's something that can come in handy later. Patty is a thief. She'll thieve. When she promotes, she'll kind of fight. Not a whole lot to go into on that one. And then after her, we have Lean, who's a dancer. And there's not much to talk about with her either. She dances. Really great commentary I'm giving you all here. After that, we have Tinny, who is a mage and promotes sadly to mage fighter, I believe, and not outright sage. So, not the best promotion choice, but at least she can actually promote, which is something she has over her silly brother, who gets a horse, and What a mistake that is, am I right? And finally, there's Leaf, who is going to suffer a very similar conundrum to Lachus, whereas he becomes one of the best and most fun units to use if we were allowed to promote him, which we are not. So while I think Leaf's combat stats are good enough to keep him around for a little bit, he'll likely be hitting the castle permanently, and just exist to recruit Altena, who in and of itself is just being recruited to get her out of danger's way. And at that, we have finished Chapter 7. Thank you all so much for watching. I apologize for the long wait, but episodes should be coming at a more regular pace now. Next chapter, we get Fabal and Sed, which, Jesus Christ, that's probably the biggest power spike to our army other than maybe Shannon's fucking existence. So I hope I'll see you all then. Have a wonderful time, and with luck, it won't take 3 months. This was still just 1 month. I don't know why I keep doing that. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Infantry Only Fire Emblem 4, the only Fire Emblem Let's Play series on YouTube that makes its big comeback and then vanishes for a week and a half again. But this time wasn't really my fault. As soon as I made that video, my mother asked me to house sit, and what I thought was just a weekend quickly morphed into a week and a half. So, I'm not taking the L on that one. I'm gonna blame her and not myself. But anyways, last time we took care of probably my least favorite chapter in the game, and thankfully this one is a lot more simple. All we have to do is just conquer 3 castles, and they aren't as nearly difficult or painstaking as that first castle last time, though this chapter isn't without its hiccups. As always, before the chapter begins, we need to take 30 years in the arena before we can actually get started. And for the most part, this is uneventful, save for our first promotion of the 2nd generation, Lana, who promotes from not being able to fight to being able to fight, which is a very, very good distinction. Since Azel is her father, she's packing a real punch in the magic department. Sure, she doesn't have any combat skills like Nihil or anything to help her do damage, but she has pursuit, and that's all she needs, because remember, this is a Kage game, and as a Kage game, no one knows what the hell resistance is, so she's going to be tearing through enemies whenever she isn't healing. The very start of the chapter, we have to make sure the castle to the north is properly protected. It gets assaulted by cavalry and then mages, so Leaf alone probably won't be able to defend it. So I decide to move Arthur up there, armed with Forseti, because nothing's going to help make use of that leg ring I have on him than doing absolutely nothing and standing still in front of a castle. The rest of my units will move out from the south castle and start moving northeast through the armor knights in the forest. This is an encounter that can be a little tricky. You might have to reset once if bad RNG goes your way, but there are plenty of forests around to make sure that Seliph and anyone else there is going to just take care of it no problem. Though do be careful of that general, he can definitely kill you. Quick aside, speaking of that general, I just want to point out this line and how his portrait is a Chagall reskin. If you're going to have to reuse portraits due to budget limitations, this is the way to acknowledge it. As for the fun times up north, Leaf has to fend off an entire horde of cavalry, which, thanks to the shield ring and the level ups he got from last chapter, really don't hurt him too much. Now you might notice that he is at half health by the time they get to him. This is because I wanted to handicap myself and give myself a challenge. Okay, it's because I fucked up in the arena, and Leaf was like the last one I did, and I really didn't feel like resetting just to redo everything for Leaf, so I just left him at 1 HP and let the castle heal him. Yeah, look, again, we have learned that I am bad at this game. I don't need comments rubbing it in. Once that's taken care of, we have those 3 Magi sisters from last chapter to deal with again. And I think they can pull off a triangle attack, but I cannot stress enough how easy it is for that to just not happen. Just do the classic bait and switch of put someone at the very edge of their range, let them walk up, and then kill them on player phase. You have so many options here. Shannon, Yohalavir, Shannon, Larcey, Shannon. You can kill all 3 of them very easily. And hell, if you're using a brave weapon, or Shannon, you just have a super easy time of it. It's not at all much of a threat. However, one mage shows up that is a little bit of a problem. Fan favorite Ishtar makes her debut this chapter, and she can actually be very difficult to kill. She has the legendary tome Mjolnir, and obviously it's a magic tome, has a lot of damage, that thing's one-shotting like 90% of your army. She doesn't have Pursuit, but she does have Adept, meaning that if you get unlucky, she can 2-hit you and you're dead. I don't care who you are, that will kill you. So we have to deploy a tactic of just one-shotting her with Shannon in order to kill her. She also has Vantage, so if you're going to try some like whittled down strats, it's not going to work. She's just going to kill you. So make sure you just kill her in one round of combat. I meme Shannon, but Larcey and Ulster are also perfectly capable as long as they proc Astra. And it's not like this game lets you reload every turn at the start to rig RNG in your favor or anything. And it's at this point in the chapter I finally deploy Julia out of the castle. Now you might be asking yourself, why did you keep her in there so long? And you see, this was part of a very secret tactic I like to call, I forgot Julia and left her in the castle. Look, I know with this and with Leaf, I'm really not making a good case for myself being good at video games, but you're just gonna have to accept it for who I am. After Ishtar shows up, we get our next great powerhouse, Fabale, an archer who is using the Ufel and will pretty much annihilate anything and everything with it. His good stats, his Ufel, and his just overall dominant offense means that he's going to be a very useful killer in our army, especially with all the Dragon Knights we're about to fight. Granted, he is an archer, so his lack of an enemy phase presence can be bad, but with a bit of good positioning and a plethora of 2-range magic users, you can still convince enemies to attack him from a distance, and he will repay that favor in kind, with a lot of fucking damage. Like, Jesus Christ, look at this kid's attack offense. Now it's time to fight the boss of this castle, which is the same as the boss from the last castle, Bloom, and he's both easier and trickier to deal with. Before he had Mjolnir, which really pumped up his stats and made him a problem. Now he just has a basic Thoron, which isn't nearly as threatening, but he does have bolting, making it a little trickier to get to him. So just make sure that no one's capable of being killed by him, or if you do leave someone that can get killed by him, pray to God and make sure he favors you, and you should be able to take care of Bloom much easier. He does have the good old-fashioned Pavice, which could be annoying, but you know, when has that ever screwed us up? After we take the castle, we immediately are thrown into our next objective, protecting Ced from the horde of Dragon Knights that are coming to kill him. I say protecting in air quotes because it's fucking Ced. He doesn't need our protection. Even with a completely physical father like we have him, his light tome is gonna rip through the Dragon Knights no problem. However, there are a bunch of green units running from the castle, and normally I say that green units aren't people. However, these green units have something of value to give me, so I'm willing to give them rights. They give us a free level up, much like the green units in Chapter 4, so we'll just be moving our underleveled units to nab them up and get free experience. So good job, green units, you actually aren't completely worthless after all. Said joining our army, we have another one of this game's infamous powerhouses on our team. Now yes, with Lex as his father, he isn't as powerful as he could be. However, the fact that he's a magic user means he's still ripping through enemies no problem, and Lex does give him some pretty nice bulk. Though he is going to be getting a lot of worthless strength level ups, and every time I see them I'm just like, oh yeah, I didn't do his father optimally. But it largely doesn't matter, he'll be able to hold his own very well regardless. Now, I wish I could make this next segment more interesting, but these Wyvern Knights, though they are plentiful in amount, really aren't much of a threat. They don't do too much damage, and hell, with their javelins, they're so inaccurate they probably won't be doing any damage, and you kinda just mow them down. Needless to say, after how frustrating the last chapter was, this one's kind of just a complete cakewalk. The only thing that's mildly threatening is trying to get to that place to the east before the bandits destroy it, but that's also not really that much of a problem. I was able to get Ulster there of all people over there in a pretty quick amount of time, and God knows if I had Fee it'd be even easier. So we end this chapter on a very anticlimactic note. There's no more tomfoolery or shenanigans for the rest of it, it's just Dragon Knights come up, I kill those Dragon Knights, I move down a bit, another thing of Dragon Knights show up, I kill those Dragon Knights, and it's just not really engaging, so, I don't really know how to end this one. I'll end it by saying thank you all very much for watching, I know that these updates haven't been as frequent as I liked, but this time it wasn't my fault. So rather than saying, hey, see you next time in a more timely manner, I'm just going to say that I'm not promising you anything. That way, when I ultimately fail to live up to your expectations, it's not my fault for saying that I can do well, but your fault for believing in me. See y'all next time, and it'll be out when it's done. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Infantry Only Fire Emblem 4, the only Fire Emblem Let's Play series on YouTube where some dumbass nerd tries to think of something funny to say in this opening bit all day and can't come up with anything. Last time we took care of one of the least interesting chapters in the entire game, and this time we've got one that's a bit more involved. And by a bit more involved, I mean actually kind of challenging and tricky to get a hold of. We're gonna have to deal with the Thracian Dragon Knights and also making sure Hannibal doesn't die, and those are two things that are easier said than done, even if we had access to our full army. But don't worry, I have a foolproof plan for all of our problems. Before we get into that, we have a fuck ton of promotions to go over. The Sword Twins have promoted into their full potential, giving Larce a much needed shot of pure strength, which is going to help her kill things even more efficiently than she was before, and Ulster's just going to get more of everything that he wants, more bulk, more strength, etc, etc. Yohalvir promotes into Warrior, granting him access to the Brave Bow, which is really big for him, as with the bow equipped, a charge as it is now called, is going to activate a hell of a lot. And then also we'll have Tinny promoting into a Battle Mage, or whatever the fuck the class name is, a worse version of Sage that tries to use swords, even though I don't think anyone that gets this class is particularly capable of using swords. After her, we also have the promotion of Julia, and my Julia is really speed blessed. Like, holy shit, she is zooming. And we technically can actually promote Seliph this chapter, but it's largely pointless to do so, as he can dismount, but he loses his promotion gains when he dismounts, so it's completely pointless to do so. And the only ones that have not yet promoted are Patty and Faval, who, well, Faval doesn't need it, and Patty, well, she actually really does, but what can you do? It's not like she's able to kill things very much. Unlike most chapters that decide to hold off a minute before they fire bullshit at us, this chapter is right out the gate with a huge problem. Hannibal and his forces are smack dab in front of us. Now, he won't move until later events happen in the game, but we kinda gotta blast through him, because the castle behind his, we need to seize in order to rescue Hannibal's adopted son. But in order to do that, we can't kill Hannibal, who's really powerful and right smack dab in the middle of us. So we need to get around Hannibal in order to get through him. So how do we pull that off? Very easy. We tell Hannibal to take a nap. Now, since I'm an idiot and forgot to move the sleep edge off Patty, I need to rely on Patty hitting Hannibal and then activating the sleep edge, which with Hannibal's resistance is about a 1 in 4 chance. Thankfully, Fire Emblem 4 lets us reset, so we're just going to keep doing that until old Hannibal takes a nap. With Hannibal asleep, we still have to make haste and get to that western castle very quickly. Normally, Seliph would be promoted by now, so you can just ride a horse on over there. Unfortunately, we can't promote Seliph. So, how do we fix this problem? Very easy. We take the leg ring from Arthur, and we put it onto Seliph. We'll still be cutting it really close, but that should get Seliph over there fast enough in order to recruit Hannibal's son, Corporal, and then from there, we need to get Corporal back to the east to talk to Hannibal, and then both of them will be recruited into our army. It's still pretty tricky, but it's definitely manageable. Before we go any farther, let's travel back in time to the beginning of this chapter to the other thing that happens as soon as the chapter starts. Altena and her horde of Dragon Knights assaulting our home castle. Now, what you have to do is talk to her with Leaf and that'll make her go away. So we need to keep Leaf guarding the home castle, and when he has cleared up enough Dragon Knights, he'll just walk out and talk to her. We also keep Arthur in the home base because we want to be able to help clear out those Dragon Knights for Leaf. And also, Arthur, without the leg ring, can't really keep up with the rest of the army, and he's going to be needed on that home castle for a lot more than just Altena. Once Leaf talks to Altena, she returns to the south and speaks with Travant about her true heritage, because apparently looking into Leaf's eyes, I don't know, allowed her to see the truth about everything. Just fantasy world stuff, it's fluffy, deal with it. Afterwards, Trevant entrusts the will of Thracia to his son, and then flies out to get himself killed in glorious combat. Now, he is very, very deadly and powerful, and he'll usually start going to wherever your units happen to be. I don't know if there's a set path to Trevant. Sometimes I've had him go up and assault my home castle, sometimes I haven't. But in this particular playthrough, he's running west, which is roughly at the time we're getting Corporal over to Hannibal. So be prepared for a big dragon fight. Trevant is packing a huge punch. He has very good base stats, pursuit, vantage, and a power ring just for an extra bit of fuck you. He's capable of tearing through pretty much anyone in a one-on-one fight, and his authority stars means he's going to be buffing the units around him as well. So, in order to deal with Trevant, I decide to put him to sleep. Not with Patty though. Corporal has my sleep staff because I intended to pass it down to Lana. I fucked up, but now Corporal puts Trevant to sleep, which makes him very easy to kill. So that's one strategy for you. If you ever have a problem in Jodral, just put it to sleep. And once Trevant takes a nap, the rest of his units fall down fairly easily, with the exception of one lone Wyvern Knight, who managed to be the only one that I couldn't kill, and I accidentally left Corporal in a prime position to get attacked. So, as expected, that knight flies right on over to Corporal, and with a 50% hit chance, misses. What? Not everything has to go horribly awry, just most things. Once all of that is squared away, we're still not done yet. A huge horde of cavalry comes from the north, intending to sweep us down while we're weakened from Trevant's forces. Thankfully, they all come down a 2-square wide road, so it's very easy to set up some defenses to take care of them. I take the ever-reliable Shannon and Ulster. And, thankfully, we can manipulate FE4's kind of intelligent AI to our advantage. The Axe Knights that lead the charge aren't going to attack Shannon or Ulster because their hit chances are way too low, so they just stand in front of them, which means we aren't in danger of being hit by anything. Except the boss, which takes a quick ride on the mountains and targets Ulster with an attack that could kill him. And of course, Ulster dodges. Look, I'm getting a little lucky here, I know, but let me have this, okay? After that's done, it's time for the fucketry down south. It's a bunch of ballistas and a dude with long-range magic, all ready to make it really annoying to go up and attack them. But ballistas in this game really aren't the most accurate thing in the world, so it's not too hard to go up there. I do kind of fuck up and forget to de-equip the fire sword from Seliph, so he's weighed down and he gets hit by some stuff, but he's fine. Tinny's there too, but it's not like she's gonna get hit by a 14%. Oh, no, okay, it's not like she's gonna be hit by 2 14%. It's not like she's gonna get hit by 3 14%. Okay. Once only the final castle is remaining, Aron begins a 3-pronged assault, attacking 3 of your previously conquered castles and then leaving a 4th squad to himself to protect the final castle. This can be the only time in the entire game where your castles are really threatened, so I have Arthur, Hannibal, and Johalvir defending them. They don't even get to Johalvir though, but the other 2 are very important. Arthur with his high evasion means he won't be at much risk, and Hannibal with his high defense means he won't be at much risk. The final squadron with Aron is actually more powerful than the other 3, but it's the one you're assaulting with all of your knights, so do be prepared for another very difficult battle, because unlike Trevant, Aron has that goddamn holy weapon in his hands. Aron leads a squadron of roughly a fuck ton of Dragon Knights, and their equipment is interesting. They're using a Slim Lance and Sleep Edge, which sounds weird, but remember, slim weapons in this game are not what they were in later games, and those Wyvern Knights can actually pack a fairly decent punch. And the Sleep Edge is self-explanatory. They're not going to hit you very much, but if they do, you always got that fear of sleep to breathe on your back. And Aron himself is very powerful. He has the Gungir, or however the hell you pronounce it, and he is going to tear through just about anything that tries to fight him. Again, even Shannon has trouble with him. So the only solution I could think of was to put him to sleep, because I gave Corporal the funds to fix the sleep staff. Yeah, I did the same exact thing for all 3 major problems in this fight. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Aron's defeat signals the end of the chapter, as you can very easily just walk up and seize the final castle once he goes down. However, I do waste a bunch of time. See, all the dragon knights that assault the castles have javelins, so Arthur's no problem, but Hannibal doesn't have a ranged weapon, so they just kind of don't do anything to him. So I move Patty on over to just kill off all the dragon knights by herself, which takes about as long as you think it does. This is because I really want her to get to level 20, so that she can promote next chapter and I can put the pursuit ring on anyone else that might need it more than her. Also, I gravely underestimated how much having Arden's blood in her slowed her down. Her speed is not the best and she really needs that promotion. Now that we're at the end of the chapter, I think it's time to go over our two new additions, Corporal and Hannibal. Corporal is a priest. Not a high priest like Claude, a priest, who joins at the exact same time, relative to scale, that Claude did in the last generation. And remember, he was a high priest. Corporal's just a priest, a level 1 priest at that. Granted, staff abusing is very easy in Fire Emblem 4, so if there ever was a game to have an underleveled staff unit to grind up, this would be the one, but he's a level 1 priest. We'll be using him, and it's not like he'll be useless, but it's definitely a bit of an uphill battle. Meanwhile, his father is a very solid unit out the gate. Hannibal's stats are very good for a general, and he'll be able to tank super well. And since we're forced to use him, his movement problem isn't as bad for us as it would normally be. His one problem is a lack of pursuit, but he does have access to the Brave Lance, which no other unit we can use does, and he does have Adepts, which can proc, if we're lucky, a fair amount of times. He also has the ability to proc Pavice, which I am more than happy about. The influx of mages come next chapter is going to be a little spooky for him, but he should still be able to hold his own regardless. And plus, look at that fucking beard and tell me he isn't a real G. Thank you guys so much for watching yet another trek through Infantry Only Fire Emblem 4. It's again a huge blast to make this series, and we're almost done. We've only got 2 more episodes with the last 2 chapters. It's getting a little bittersweet. I mean, every time I've ended an LP, it's been bittersweet. Except the Iron Man of every 6, that was just bitter. But I really appreciate all the response this has gotten. This has been a super fun Let's Play to do, and I'm already antsy to start my next one, which is another fun idea you guys might like. But one thing at a time. And the next thing we have to deal with is fucking Julius. Ah, shit. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Infantry Only Fire Emblem 4, the only Fire Emblem Let's Play series on YouTube that decides that 2 in the morning is an appropriate time to start recording voice lines. Last episode, we made it through Oops All Dragon Knights, and this episode, we're about to tackle Oops All Mages. And let me tell you, Fire Emblem's a weird place where nerds with books are far more terrifying than people riding literal dragons. So let's just see if we can manage to plow through a group of dark mages being in a Kaga game where resistance just doesn't exist. Warning, it is not very easy. Before we can even get started on the chapter, we already have to put up with some mage-related fucketry. Manfroy appears and kidnaps Julia, and takes her away from my army until we can save her in the final chapter. This does suck a major amount of ass, because Julia is a very powerful combat unit due to how lucky I've been with her speed, and her staff utility is, well, staff utility. It's not all bad though, as Patty and Faval can now promote, which isn't necessarily good because of the stats they get, though trust me, the stats are good. The main thing is Patty now has Pursuit naturally, which means we can sell that Pursuit ring on her and put it on to someone else. And as for the candidate for the Pursuit ring, there were a lot of options. Now, as we all know, Pursuit is the most valuable skill in the game, and a lot of our units could really use it. Specifically, my eyes start to look towards the Magic siblings, Leaf, Hannibal, Yohalvir, etc. And in the end, I ultimately decide to give it to Arthur, for a few reasons. One, he's going to be doing an absurd amount of damage to dangerous units being able to double with Forsetti, so that's a big plus. And secondly, Hannibal and Yohalvir can kind of cheat by using brave weapons to double, and plus Yohalvir can activate charge a lot due to his high HP pool, and Hannibal's not really going to need the ability to double too much, plus his speed's low, so not much you can do about that. It is going to be bad because Tinny could really use it, but ultimately it's not too much of a loss. and Leaf isn't going to be doing too much damage regardless, so giving him Pursuit doesn't really help him all that much. And right out the gate, we encounter the first of many groups of mages this chapter has to offer. Now, these mages are actually much more threatening than your normal mages, because they have a fancy little spell called Hell, an attack that hits you with the opening cinematic, and the opening cinematic is one of the most terrifying spells in the game. This is because it's the dark magic spell that reduces your HP to 1. Not exactly a tactic that people are unfamiliar with, however, most of us play the GBA games first, where we laugh at this spell because it never hits anything. All it's useful for is breaking walls. However, the original game it came from, it's a little bit more powerful because they realized that this spell is actually really scary if you give it a hit rate. The problem is we can't even take this slow and steady. First of all, they have sleep staff users, which means that we're just going to get put to sleep if we don't kill them quickly. There's also a dude going to kill some children. You know, classic Jugdrawl fun times. However, this guy's decided he's had enough with killing children, and now he's decided he's just going to kill children slowly. An interesting character arc, but one that does buy us time to go save a group of 5 children. And normally, I'd say green units aren't people. Fuck them even if they are children. However, we can rescue these children for free level ups. And as we all know, green units matter as long as they give me something to gain. So we do have to go through this quickly. Thankfully, the Dark Mages aren't the tankiest in the world. Even Hannibal's able to notch in a few kills. But we do kind of just have to accept that they'll put us to sleep. However, this is why the Restore Staff exists, so while this opening bit is strenuous, the only thing you have to be afraid of is it's an encounter that happens on the first turn. So if you fuck up, you have to redo the arena for all of your units all over again, and that's just unfortunate. The boss of the first castle is Hilda, also known as the biggest bitch in all of Jugdrawl. Now, she doesn't actually have a legendary tome, which is a little bit better than most mages will be fighting. However, she still packs a huge punch. Even more unfortunate is that by the time my forces meet up to clash with Riddell, it's all right in front of her castle, so I kinda have to position myself as to not get fucked by her and Riddell's forces. This creates a bit of a clusterfuck of a match, but Riddell's forces aren't too powerful, and also, you know, Shannon. So we're able to take care of them fairly simply. Now, we need to take a quick moment of silence, because with Riddell's death, we have officially killed the last enemy in the game that uses that generic portrait. It will be missed. Once Hilda is out of the picture, I decide to give all the kids over to Corporal so that he can get those level ups. This is because he's a level 1 priest that we got last chapter, and even with staff abuse, his levels are really far behind. The kids give him just enough levels to get up to level 20, so I decide to send him back home where he belongs. There's not a whole lot he's going to be able to contribute upcoming in the chapter, so we're just going to send him home, get him promoted, buy him a book, and just let him be for now. And in addition to that, it's time to move west and conquer the second castle, which, bizarrely enough, doesn't really get any guards. There's like 3 dudes in front of it and the boss, but it's always felt weird to me that getting to the second castle is so uneventful. You'd feel like there'd be more shit to come out, but no, it was just Riddell's forces. Huh. Once we conquer both castles, the gate leading to the northern end of the chapter opens, and it is here that the biggest load of ass happens in the entire chapter. This part is swarming with Hellbook users and Sleep Staff users, ready to make our lives a living hell. There are more Sleep Staffs here than Lana is able to restore, even if she's danced by Lean. So we just have to move quickly and hope to God Hell doesn't screw us over. It is a very tricky part that will require a lot of resets. In particular, Hannibal almost died, but thankfully he was able to proc Pavice on an attack that would have killed him, which is great. And as the chapter went on, it happened again, but Pavice activated, which was great. And wait a minute, am I praising the activation of Pavice?
Maybe I don't want to be the bad guy anymore.
And as if that isn't bad enough, we also have to deal with the fact that Julius and Ishtar show up. And while a unit can survive an attack from Ishtar, if Julius attacks you, you're pretty much as good as dead. Now they'll only leave when one of them dies. You don't have to kill both of them. So naturally, I do the only intelligent thing and kill Larcey. Once their game is won, they'll just leave as well. So we just offer up Larcey to the Elder Gods and tell her to fuck off. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's not actually what we do. Remember how I said that Corporal really wasn't going to be able to do anything else this chapter? Well, I have to make a confession to you guys. I'm a fucking liar. Corporal, thanks to his father being Claude, has the Valkyrie staff, which can bring back any unit from the dead as long as you have the money to pay for it. And guess what? We just sacrificed a woman, so it's very easy to just bring her back. The only problem is you have to be in the home castle to do this, so that's why I left Corporal there this entire time. See, I am capable of having big brain strategies. Not all the time, not even as much as some of the time, but occasionally I can actually put some foresight into my decisions. Don't get used to it. After we wait for Larcey and Corporal to get all the way back to where we were, it's time to engage the final part of this chapter, a battle on a one-tile bridge in order to pierce our way through to Arvis. Now, normally this wouldn't be too bad, as the one bridge allows us to effortlessly just wait there with Hannibal in the lead. Problem. We have to get through there quickly because Paulmark is entrusted with the Typh Ring to give to Seliph, and if we don't have that, we're going to have a bad time. So we have to go quickly. With our full force, we're able to break through, but we do have to rush Seliph over there with that leg ring still equipped to him, because this is one of those things where us not having cavalry is actually a little difficult. Thankfully, the units, again, aren't too difficult to deal with. The only problem is Seliph gets hit by 3 straight 40% and dies. So I decide to have him move only 1 space less so he only gets hit by 2 things potentially. And guess what? That time he dodged both of them effortlessly. I swear God is real and he is mocking me. Paulmark was also guarding some more children, and just like the last children, we want to get our grubby hands on them for experience. I decided to give them to Hannibal and Patty. Patty because her levels are a little low, and her growths are good enough that a few more level ups is really going to help her combat. Hannibal doesn't have very good growths, but every single level up is 1% more for Pavice to activate, which is more useful than any stats could possibly be. Well, maybe stats could be a little useful. Okay, stats are really useful, but trust me, I'm just showing blind favoritism to a unit I like. Now for the clash with Arvis, I decide to have Seliph fight him mano-a-mano. Now you might be thinking to yourself, isn't this very long and time consuming because Seliph can't promote and Arvis has a really high defense? Yes. However, Seliph is never in danger of dying because I'm instantly healing him, so it's really just a war of attrition. And it's not just for the theming. That's part of it, but it's also because you want Seliph to be the one to land the killing blow on Arvis, because after you do so, you can go down for the beach episode of Fire Emblem 4, and it is a lot less fun than other beach episodes. Not as bad as Berserk's, though. If Seliph is the one to land the final blow on Arvis, you'll want to move him down to the beach just south of the castle, where the ghosts of Deidre and Sigurd will appear to congratulate Seliph on what he's done, and remark that he's not done yet, and that there's more things he'll need to accomplish. This is a very touching moment, if a bit weird that the ghosts of Deidre and Sigurd just exist. I don't think it's ever mentioned how or why, but whatever, it's emotional. It's emotional. This also gives us the Renewal Ring, or Life Ring I think it's called, which grants Seliph a really good regeneration tool, and since he'll be on the front lines of the Typh Ring, it's really good. There's a reason I've had the Renewal Band on Larcey this entire time. It's just a good-ass ring. Also, it's really funny to me that Sigurd's final message is literally just,
Change the world. My final message. Goodbye.
And with that, we have completed the penultimate chapter of Fire Emblem 4. It's a little bullshit with all the mages, but it's nothing that you can't handle with enough preparation, and yes, enough luck. Next time we have the final chapter, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm both really excited for and really scared of. The last chapter of this game is not easy, and with a limited unit pool, it might be even harder. I'm especially worried about how the fuck I'm going to get Altena to talk to Aaron when I can't use her for combat, and trust me, we're going to want to do that because Aaron's a huge help. But that's a problem for me of another time. The me of this time is telling you all, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, but no one ever fucking rings the bell, so I won't judge you if you don't. And I will see you next time. Have a wonderful day. Can't believe I cheered for Pavice in this chapter. God damn, who am I? Hello everyone, and welcome back to Infantry Only Fire Emblem 4. The only Fire Emblem Let's Play series on YouTube that is, we're doing it. We're actually doing it. I don't even have the energy to come up with an opening joke here. We are here. The final chapter, the end of the road. Golly, it only took us 14 episodes and like 12 months. But, at long last, we have reached the end of Fire Emblem 4. And let me tell you, this chapter probably has the most bullshit in it of all of them. I, of course, say that with love. I think the final chapter of Fire Emblem 4 is very good. It's just got some hard-ass shit in it. So, without any more of this bullshit, let's just get right into the thick of it and how I'm going to pull my hair out, due to the difficulty of the game and the excess of my own stupidity. Right out of the gate, there are some dark mages on top of a cliff that's going to be firing long-range dark magic and silence staves at us. Now, normally this wouldn't be a problem. In fact, with some dancing shenanigans, we can kill off most of them right away. Keyword being most of them. There's one fucker that's just outside of reach. Thankfully, he only has the silence staff and not any sort of damage, so it's very easy to just not put anyone he can silence in its range. I just wanted to bring it up because it annoys me that he's right there! So close to being able to kill him. But alas and alack, we have to turn our attention to the horde of cavalry that's coming right after him. The first wave of enemies in this final chapter isn't too difficult. It's just a horde of cavalry led by some dude named Roberto. None of them really pose much of a threat, and a lot of them end their turns on roads, so it can be very easy to attack them while their defenses are lowered. So it's really not much of a challenge. The real fucketry comes after, you guessed it, more mages! Now, if all of these magic goons just did magic damage and we just had to worry about that, that'd be one thing. We just put Arthur and Shannon there and dodge all of them. The problem is like half of them have a sleep staff, and that is something you can't dodge. It is either you have enough resistance to dodge the sleep 100%, or you're gonna go to sleep. And the only person in our army with enough resistance to really do that is Seliph himself with the Typh Ring. So we kind of just have to wait as Seliph goes around, one by one, slicing up every single magic user there. It's slow, it's time-consuming, but we aren't in any real danger. So, with that, the first castle is annoying, but it's not difficult. After the castle is conquered, we have our first lovers' conversation of the final chapter. Now, if I were actually using everyone and paired some people off, I'd have a lot of these. But I didn't, so I have like 3 of these. The first one is between Shannon and Patty, and basically Patty makes him some lunch that somehow gives him more health and speed. Which, I don't know what the hell you can put in a sandwich that gives a man more power, but pass me over that formula, because that sounds really helpful. Especially for Shannon. More speed is amazing, because it helps him just do everything he wants to do better. And despite what the Balmung gives him, my Shannon hasn't actually leveled speed as much as one would think, so this is a big improvement. After you seize the first castle, we're on to House Dazzle, where Brian is ready to come at us with a absolute unit of Axe Knights. Now, normally, one force goes east to attack your units, and then another force goes south to attack your home castle. Now, I have no one there defending it. I intended to just cast Return on Ulster or something. However, for whatever reason, Brian went east with his other force. He completely ignored the wide open enemy castle that had no guards. Like, what the fuck does he think he is? Hannibal? No, not that one. The real-life Hannibal. Hannibal of Carthage. You see, he was at the doorstep of Rome, and he could have seized it, and he didn't, and it's a history joke. It's funny, I swear. Now, the good thing about Brian's force being entirely axemen is that it's very easy to just put a dodge tank in the center of it all and not worry about most of them. Sure, if they actually hit you, they'll do a lot of damage, but if you just put Shannon in the very narrow corridor of mountains there, they won't really be able to get past him, and he'll just dodge tank everything because he's fucking Shannon. Arthur, Larcey, and Ulster also work for this, and most of it goes by just fine. The only problem with Brian's forces is the titular Brian himself, who is our first unit we fight in this chapter that has a holy weapon of his own. Brian is a Duke Knight armed with a Hellswath, a powerful axe that not only has 1 to 2 range, but also bestows upon Brian a fucking 20-point boost to his physical defense and a 10-point boost to his resistance, meaning it is nigh impossible for most units to do damage to him. Our only hopes are our own holy weapons, be it Seliph, Shannon, or Arthur, and they can do it fairly well. But this is one of the enemies that's a genuine threat. If you aren't paying attention, he will one-round pretty much anyone in your army, aside from your holy weapon users. And it's going to get a lot harder than him from here on out, so straddle on, folks, we're in for a ride. Once I seize House Dozel, we can get our last lovers' conversations of the chapter. Lana can talk to Seliph and give him +3 resistance, Nana can talk to Leif and give him +3 defense, and sadly Yohalvir can talk to Larcey, but she's already capped her strength, so he isn't able to give her any more of a boost. But hey, if I can't boost it because it's already too high, I guess that's a nice problem to have. I've also somehow paired off Fi and Oife. I didn't even notice until the epilogue had them together, which is also a lover's conversation I could have done, but it's between 2 mounted units, so who cares? And I've also somehow paired off Ulster and Tinny, but that doesn't really matter because they don't have a conversation. Tinny can only have it with Seliph, Sed, and I think Leif. So, not the best pairings in terms of getting stat boosts, but it's what happens. Now the next house of contention is House Frege, guarded by Hilda and a whole horde of armor spellcasters. Now at first glance this looks very threatening. Magic is one of the biggest damage users in the game, and you just have to fight a whole lot of them. Not to mention the fact that Jungbi Bonites come in to flank you from the south, coming in all on horseback with fast and accurate attacks. But this really isn't as hard as it looks, because the Jungbi Bonites aren't very good at flanking. See, they show up at a good time, but the Frege Knights don't actually get aggroed once Jungbi arrives. So Jungbi starts charging you, and the Frege Knights just sort of stand there. They don't attack you, so you can turn all of your attention to the Bow Knights instead, which is exactly what I do. I say that, but all I really did was put Fabail on a forest tile and let him mow them all down with the U-Fell. They can't really hit him, and even if they did, the bulk he inherited from Arden is too high for the hits to really have an impact, and it all goes very swimmingly as Fabail mows them all down. Until the boss shows up. It's Fabail's cousin, and they actually have a boss conversation beforehand, but Fabail isn't as accurate as I thought he was, and the boss is a lot more powerful than I thought he was, very easily killing Fabail with his killer bow. So I had to back Fabail up in a kind of awkward way, and I ultimately just used Shannon until you win, which has been a viable strategy from the moment you get Shannon all the way up until now, and not to spoil anything, but it's going to keep being a viable strategy for a little while longer yet. The Frege Knights have thankfully waited patiently for us to kill their pincer attack, so now we can go forward and deal with them. Now you'd think an Armor Knight force of that size with magic would be a little scary. Problem is they're all using Thunder Magic except Hilda, and Thunder Magic is bad against Wind Magic. So all we have to do is place someone with a powerful Wind Tome in their way, and they're powerless. Now, I don't really know where we'll find one of those, but if we did have one of those, he would definitely tear through their forces no problem. And after he tears through their forces no problem, he'd have a pretty cool moment where he'd have a boss conversation with Hilda, and unlike Fabail, he would actually demolish her, getting an instant crit and kill, and just getting that jackass off the map forever. But I don't know, we're gonna find someone like that, so we kinda just have to pray he shows up one day. If you thought things were going swimmingly, well, it's about to all change, because Ishtar shows up with a bunch of units that are actually capable of killing you, namely 3 Pegasus Knights with Earth Swords that are really going to be tough to kill and have 11 movement due to their movement rings. In addition to that, Manfroy is now shown up alongside Julia, and she's deadly because she's talking in all caps, and she's going to slowly be walking towards her army, ready to try and kill them. And Aron's going to show up to the south, ready to come and take our home castle that we still don't have anyone defending. Now, all of these are problems, but the first problem we're going to be able to deal with is Aron, so let's just take care of that real fast. Aron is just as much of a powerhouse now as he was back on Chapter 9. Thankfully, we can deal with him much easier. We simply have to talk to him with Altena, and then he and all of his goons will become green units. Now, in actual playthrough, they're fairly good. They're good cannon fodder, and Aron himself can actually kill a lot of things. Problem is, they follow Altena around and goes where she goes. And normally, she's one of your most powerful units, so that's not a problem. But here it's a problem because that would mean Altena will always have a chance of getting attacked by something, and that's a no-no. So, while these green units are actually kind of people, we're going to have to leave them down to the side. Talking to Aron here is simply a means to get him to not take our castle, and we're not going to be able to use his power for ourselves. Now that we've taken care of Aron, it's time to take care of Ishtar, and let me tell you, that is not an easy feat. I knew it was going to be a problem from the start when the first wind mage that ever attacked my units procced Adept and killed Yohalavir, and the rest of her units are just about as deadly. Killer bow units are going to be able to make mincemeat of any of our squishy magic users, the magic users are going to be able to make mincemeat of any of our regular units, and Ishtar is going to proc Adept and kill Shannon. Yeah, this chapter has taught me that while Pavice is the bigger issue for the game in general, in this final chapter, Adept is going to be your absolute worst nightmare.
Perhaps I treated you too harshly.
Though Ishtar's forces are strong, we can deploy one of the age-old techniques, putting one unit on a one-gap-wide space and forcing them all to fight that unit. In this case, Arthur. Arthur's going to be able to take out most of Ishtar's forces, and since we put some people behind him, they're going to get attacked, which means Ishtar's not going to have an outlet to walk up and kill Arthur, because she's the last unit to move of her force every time. So by manipulating this AI, we make it so that Ishtar cannot buttfuck us, and then Arthur's going to complete his character arc by killing Ishtar with a Wrath crit. Nothing like a good old-fashioned familicide to make a man get going. And with one deadly mage out of the way, it's time to get to the other one. Julia, who has not had her Snicker bar in a while and just really isn't herself. Now what you have to do is you have to kill Manfroy and then talk to her with Seliph. So the problem is Manfroy is swarmed by hell units in front of him. So I decided to send Seliph over there to one-on-one Manfroy mano-e-mano, and I think to myself, this will go just fine. Seliph doesn't need any backup, and he can just 1v1, or I guess in this case 1v6, those mages no problem at all. However, there is just one teeny tiny but ever so crucial detail. I accidentally saved over a file where Seliph got hit by the 10% hell and was stuck there with 1 HP. Now I know what you're saying. Well, just move Seliph out of Manfroy's range. The hell users can't kill him, only Manfroy can. The exact file in which I saved had them all box him in so that he literally can't escape. Oh, well, why not just heal him? I didn't bring anyone else with him. Corporal's near, but I didn't think I'd need to use him. So, now your final question is, why? Why would you do this to yourself?
Because I thought I did this. What I actually did was this.
And let me tell you, that was a very rude way to learn that down and right are not the same direction. So, in order to make up for that stupidity, I just have to keep resetting until Seliph doesn't die. I don't want to admit how long this took. I'm just going to tell you, it took a while. And it really made me hate my own stupidity, and really made me question why I am running a Fire Emblem channel when I am so fucking bad at Fire Emblem. I know I say that a lot, but it applies here, at this moment, perhaps more than any other. But Through a lot of RNG scumming, I do eventually manage to kill Manfroy. With a few less hairs in my head than how I started, but hey, sacrifices have to be made in the name of stupidity. With Manfroy dead, we can finally talk to Julia and calm her the hell down from her emo phase. Now, with that done, moving her over to Valhalla will get her the Book of Naga, a tome that, while not required to kill Julius, is pretty much required to kill Julius. At the very least, it trivializes his final fight very well, and it's just a overall very powerful weapon for Julia. Now, you could just warp her there, but for some reason I don't think to use the warp staff and just have her walk all the way over there manually, wasting more time. I'm only bringing this up now because I didn't think to do that until right now when I'm editing voices in post-production, and I just wanted to again bring up how dumb I am. And now it's time for the epic final clash. The Dreadlords and Julius guard the final castle, and this fight is honestly really good. Almost everyone gets a chance to contribute, and the Dreadlords can actually put up a pretty decent fight. We're on all cylinders, all of my healers, all of my offensive units combine, and give them all a good solid ass whooping. The only real problem, and this isn't too much of a deal, but Hannibal dies. Sure is a shame that we don't have any way to bring him back whatsoever, and Hannibal just has to remain dead. Fare thee well, Shield of Thracia. I will never forget you. Oh, hey, Hannibal. And you see, I wanted to show you a really cool trick you can do. Unfortunately, God told me no. What you can do is, there's one Dreadlord that uses the Hell Tome, and if you berserk him with the Berserk Edge, or the Berserk Staff if you're using substitutes, you can actually berserk him and have him cast Hell on Julius. And normally Julius reduces damage, but he reduces damage by half. Hell just instantly reduces your HP to 1. It doesn't really have a damage amount per se. So this instantly reduces Julius to 1. And, since he attacks on the enemy phase, Julius doesn't have any time to heal that 1. So you can just flick him with anyone, and he's dead. Now, I wanted to do this in like a funny hee-ha way with like Yohalvir or something, but no matter how many times I whacked that guy with the Berserk Edge, he did not want to go Berserk. I save reset a lot, and it just was not in the cards for me. So, sadly, all I can do is tell you that this cheese is possible, instead of actually doing the cheese myself. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I tried to have fun with it, but Mommy said I'm not allowed to have fun. So, instead of some really funny dark magic cheese, I guess we'll have to have an epic Elder Dragon God versus epic Elder Dragon God battle to decide the fate of the world. I guess we'll have to settle with that. All jokes aside, the final spells on display here are really cool. Lopter and Naga going at it's just really good SNES animation. And though the fight itself isn't difficult at this point, like I said, the Book of Naga really trivializes it, it is still really cool to see. But, this does mean we're done here. Once Julius dies, that's it. We've done it. We've finished the LP. I don't know what else to say here, but thank you. Thank you for watching, thank you for commenting, thank you for sharing, just thank you. This LP has been a ton of fun to do. It's been really great to see all the comments like, oh man, this chart's gonna suck, or, you know, this chapter was actually pretty cool. I even saw one of you guys do it yourselves, and that is just so magical to me. My stupidity is infectious. There is going to be another LP soon, not right away, might be a day or two, but another one will be coming. And other than that, all I can say is just like, comment, subscribe, and thank you again. I hope you guys had as much fun watching this as I had making this. And until next time, take care of yourselves, alright?